fantastic entertainment that we know as professional wrestling. So allow us tonight to be the voices inside of your head as we go through the wrestling events of the evening, give our thoughts and predictions on what's to come, and provide an experience inclusive to all you nerds out there. So be sure to grab your steel chair, yell for the table, and be put through an experience like none other. We are brought to you by Animal Studio, and this is the Weebs of the Ring podcast. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully, you had a good evening. Apologies for the tardiness of us tonight. We had some technical difficulties in the back, but hey, your world champion is here. He is going to talk to you about this awesome SmackDown, but I'm not alone. Of course, as always, we have the genius of the ring himself. Drop this box. Drop, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing pretty good, and like Watkins said, we had a lot of trouble because Vash isn't here with us tonight, so normally we do have him doing the streams and stuff, so it's just something that we're growing accustomed to of, what to do if one of our guys are out, which is perfectly fine. It's just it's just something that you tend to run into every so often when it comes to technical stuff, but then things end up working out in the long run. Our guys are out, which is perfectly fine.
Exactly.
And
so
we do sound good. I am listening to it.
Okay,
So
good.
I am happy about that.
Good. Yeah. Again, we're trying some new things out to make our production even better for you guys. So again, thank you so much for your patience. But we're actually going to go ahead and dive right into the action here because
We do have a lot to talk about.
we have so much to flip and talk about tonight. So we're going to start off by talking about the Bloodline storyline, obviously, because like that seems to be the biggest thing going on right now. Even, dare I say, even bigger than what Cody's doing right now. So Solo comes out beginning of the night. He wants acknowledgement from Roman Reigns by the end of the night that he is the tribal chief, and we get a shocker to start off SmackDown.
Yeah, no, it caught me off guard. I was not expecting that.
My reaction to it, I'm surprised I didn't get a text from my family being like, "Are you okay down there? Like, is everything all right?" Like, Jey Uso comes out to talk to Solo.
Yeah.
This was crazy because again, I know I wasn't expecting this. Drop wasn't expecting this,
No.
but like especially after Monday night, when Jimmy tried to get him to come over and all that. But like, I guess this is Jay's way of trying to be like, okay, I don't want any part of this. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it out to you, Drop. What was your initial reaction when Jay came out for the evening?
So when I was watching SmackDown, I had a feeling that Solo was going to come out, say something, because it was advertised that him and Roman are supposed to be doing something tonight. But I wasn't expecting Jey Uso to come out. The only reason why I say that is because based on what we saw on Monday, it didn't really give him a legitimate reason to really go over to SmackDown and do whatever he wanted to do over there. That's why I was a little caught off guard, where I was like, oh, Jay's here tonight. Because if it was like a little bit different things going on, where it's like, okay, this actually led to Jay coming on SmackDown to do his thing, then I would understand it. I would probably expect it. But I guess that shock factor is actually very interesting, because I do like how they're actually taking time to factor Jay into the whole Bloodline story, because it's very important. You need to have Jay there. Jay is a key player, and it makes sense with the kind of story that they're trying to tell when it comes to Jay, because if you look back, and even Roman referenced it tonight when it came to him and Jay's relationship, there's a lot of stuff to dig into, especially when it comes to the early stages of the whole Bloodline story. So it makes sense why Jay's in this position where it's like, hey, I left the Bloodline, I did my whole thing, and now I'm a champion now, and things are just working out a lot better for me. So it's nice to see that sort of contrast between the current Bloodline with the current Jay, because it just shows that growth where it's like, before, Jay was in the Bloodline, he was all over the place, he didn't really know what to do with himself. He left. It's almost like he's a whole new man. He went down a different route. He's just like a changed person, and it's just nice to see that like side to side comparison between Solo and his group and Jay. That's something that I really did like, just seeing that contrast for one another, but just them in the ring was like a sight to see.
Well, even like Jay, because like I love how
It's
Jay's
just nice to
selling just
see
how
that like
dangerous
side to
Temu
side
Bloodline
comparison
is,
between
or at least how
Solo and
dangerous
his
they
group
need to
and
be portrayed.
Jay. That
Because like even he is just like, it's one thing for you guys
them in the
to
ring
want
was like
balance with the Force and all that here, but
yeah.
like you got those guys. You even brought Jacob in here. Like, there was a reason we didn't bring Jacob. Like, just him saying like there was a reason they didn't bring Jacob in beforehand. Like, that just hypes up Jacob Fatu even
Yeah.
more. Shout out to our
Did you see it? Did
mascot
you
of the
see how he
podcast.
showed up on the show tonight where he was like had a little mask on over his face?
Yeah. Oh, it's sick. It was so
He's
sick,
a
dude.
menace. I mean, we
But
know that, but he's a menace.
oh my gosh, he is such a menace. But like just Jay hyping them up a little bit with that, but like just again saying how dangerous they are. But even Jay is being like, look, I don't want any part of this because I'm not part of this. I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing my Yeet thing. I'm the IC champion now. Like, I don't need this. But like him coming out tonight is more of just, hey, I don't want any part of this. You do your thing, little bro, but be careful with what you're dealing with. Like, especially with Roman, because Roman is a dangerous person, which we'll find out later on. Like, oh god, just the layers to peel back with like some of the promo work, some of like the body language too. Because that's the thing. Jay made sure to come here before Jimmy and Roman were here to
Yeah.
make it clear that he's not on their side,
Hmm.
that he's on the side of his own self.
Yeah, and it made sense for him to do that because if he just came out there with like Jimmy and Roman, it would just feel like very awkward because it's like, okay, why are you with these guys? I mean, if we're
Hmm.
comparing this to how things were in the past, I mean, he would just be giving each other high fives the entire time and just forget about all the history that they went through. But I'm glad that we're
Yeah.
getting that slow build up because if I was in Jay's situation, and I mentioned it before when I did the show last week when they were starting to build to the whole Jay thing, I probably would react the exact same way because you think of Jay in this
Mhm.
current situation that he's in right now. I mean, obviously, fuck Roman and fuck Jimmy and all that because of all that, nasty shit that they did to him. So just
Mhm.
it's nice that Triple H is showing like sides of like an actual human being when it comes to whatever situation that they're put in where they're like, okay, it makes sense why Jay's reacting this way because any normal human being put into this situation would react the same way. That's like me,
Yeah.
dealing with somebody in school. And let's say, for example, I was hanging out with this kid or whatever. And then after a while, I wanted to break free, do my own thing. And then things actually ended up working out for me. And then this person tries coming back to me because they're trying to say they're a changed person and they're going down a different
Mhm.
route. And then I'm looking at them, I'm like, I don't know if I can trust you. You put me through a lot of shit. Why should I care about what you're doing? So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
situation like that. So I do appreciate the storytelling. And one of my biggest gripes was I was hoping they wouldn't rush it. It does seem like they're taking their time with it because we'll talk about it a little bit later. But even what we saw towards the end of the show, it made sense, why
Mhm.
Jay did. I'm just gonna say now, Jay didn't appear, but
Yeah,
but we will talk. We're talking about the whole entire Bloodline story in just one
exactly.
segment because we have our own little format here. We try to be different. We try to talk about the big things first, and then we start getting into the other things afterwards. But me and Watkins are definitely going to spend quite some time on this because like he said earlier, there's a
Mhm.
lot of shit to dive into when it comes to this. When it comes to things being said, when it comes to how certain
Mhm.
things are being played out throughout the show, there's just a lot of different things to dissect and really get that get that whole message that's being sent across us or whatever I was trying to
Yeah.
phrase that.
No, no, no. Yeah, I get you. Because like, I'm not gonna lie.
Said
Like
when
this
it
whole
comes to how
beginning
certain
part
things are being
with
played
Jay
out
being
throughout the
out
show.
there talking Thank you to so much.
Solo
About
about
this,
this
because
because
like
like
when
throw
you
it out
think
to you.
back to it,
Oh,
it's
and
like
things are
You even
Jay
brought Jacob in
was
here. Like,
the
there was a
successor. He was the tribal heir to be the tribal
yeah,
chief. But then like, he left because of, reasons that we saw throughout the past year and all that.
yeah,
And like him now coming back into the storyline, into the mix of them,
yeah,
it's making me think that like all of this could end up leading to Jey becoming the tribal chief
Yeah.
because like we're starting to kind of see like he's kind of going through the hero's journey in a way
Yeah.
where like he's facing off against this adversity. He's going off by himself
Yeah.
now, like away from his family, like going through all that. But now he's like back in that fold. But like it's almost like he's learning to become a true leader
Yeah.
because like
Loud
and
strife.
I feel like exactly like
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Like he's just trying to learn like and he's not doing it on purpose either.
No.
It's just like it's coming naturally, which
Yeah.
again makes for an even better story
Oh
when it's
yeah.
a natural
Oh
thing.
yeah.
And like I think what one I don't want to say necessarily say it's a gripe, but if you notice when the segment after this where he goes up to Jimmy and Roman backstage, he's smiling at Jimmy
Mhm.
and like at first he kind of starts being playful, but like it was kind of weird because I think back to like Monday when he just kind of brushed him off and all that. I'm like, why you kind of being smiling near Jimmy? That's a little weird, but again, kind of like what you said, I'm glad they're still kind of taking their time with this because I know that's one thing I've always harped on with the Bloodline storyline with Jay getting back involved is they have to be very delicate with all this because again, you're basically going back to your abuser right there. And I mean, I know we're kind of skipping around with the segments here and all that, but like just with Roman backstage being like, we're proud of you and all that stuff. Like I saw a tweet about like, oh, there goes Roman again trying to gaslight his cousins. Like, oh, that's kind of part of it too, because like part of this story is like Roman actually acknowledging Jay,
Yeah.
and
It,
not like this because like in a way this almost kind of felt like he had to
yeah.
because like once Jay walked off, Roman just wrote him off right then and there. But like it's gonna get to a point where Roman's gonna have to actually acknowledge Jay, and that's gonna be the big moment that brings Jay back.
Yeah, that's the whole thing behind it too. That's why you have Roman put in this situation for that very reason to get to that destination.
Hmm.
Because that's the whole thing. Because a lot of people are like, I heard a lot of people saying, seeing Jimmy and Jay again, would that be a good moment? Sure, but to me personally, I feel like I feel like not Jimmy, I feel like Jay and Roman actually coming together again would be an even bigger moment, just considering,
Hmm.
like we mentioned earlier, all the different kinds of shit that they've been through, looking at
Yeah.
where they were at the beginning and looking at where they are now. It's pretty much like you're watching a movie and you're seeing a whole story play out as you're watching that 2 to 3 hour movie. You see how
Hmm.
Roman was, let's say like this, you saw how Roman was treating Jay in the beginning. And then you saw in the middle, Jay was starting to get fed up. He's like, you know what? I got to get out of here. And then you come towards the end of the film where it's like, okay, you know what? I admit I was wrong for doing what I was doing. I apologize for the way I treated you in the past. And then this is where everything comes together, where they both see eye to eye again, and it plays out organically, of course. And then
Hmm.
you get them back on track again because like I said before, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record saying this, but we're gonna be talking about this Bloodline story for quite some time. But I'd rather see it play out organically and naturally
Hmm.
rather than just rushing through it, only because it just makes a lot of sense to really
Hmm.
dive into that relationship between Roman Reigns and Jay and not just jump into it just because you want to get it out of the way and
Yeah.
focus on whatever's happening at Survivor Series. Like, this isn't something you just skip through.
Hmm. Yeah, like again, like you got to be delicate with it because there
Yeah.
are people out there that consume the WWE product that I can almost
all that,
guarantee
but
have
now
been
he's like
through a
back in that
situation like this
fold. But
before,
like
it's
where
almost like
like
he's
it could be a
learning to
family
become a
member, it could be
true
a significant other, like
On
any of those
whatever's
things. Like
happening at Survivor
you
Series.
just got to be very careful with it because you could you just toe a line that people can get very triggered by,
Oh yeah,
and yeah, you just got to be careful with it. But like kind of backtracking a little bit back to like with Jay talking to Solo
oh
in the
yeah,
ring, again, he's hyping up Temu Bloodline, obviously, but like I also like too how with Jay's words and how he's talking, it's in a way you can kind of feel. So if you cast your minds back to like SummerSlam last year
Yeah.
with Jimmy costing Jay the match against Roman, and his reasoning was, I don't want that to happen to you. With Jay's words here, I can kind of feel those sentiments coming from him now,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like this is now like a future Jay that's like look back at that time being like, you know what? That could have happened to me. Like not saying it would have, but it could have. And he's just trying to without, costing Solo a match, like Jimmy did with Jay. Jay's now trying to communicate with Solo being like, look brother, look little bro, like you need to kind of calm down a bit. Like, don't let the power get to your head because it's going to come to a point where it's going to implode on you, and nobody wants that, dude. So, yeah, I think that's the approach that Jay was trying tonight,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's going to fail because, like, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, now the Bloodline might cost Jay his own title."
Yeah,
Um,
I saw that whole narrative being spread out online, which I see.
yeah.
See, the reason why people think that, and I can't really blame them for thinking that, is because
Mhm.
over the years when we were watching WWE, when it came to Raw, SmackDown, whatever kind of program we're watching, even the pay-per-views, PLEs, whatever you want to call them, we were just programmed to think that way just because that's just something we saw all the time, where we saw a certain character meet another character and then a conflict broke out, and then the next show
Mhm.
that conflict bleeded onto that show, and then let's say that character had their title on the line, and then that other character had a problem with that character that's in the ring with somebody else that they're defending their title against. It's just something that we're just used to seeing because it was just a repetitive thing seen throughout the years, where it's like, okay, this is going to happen and the person's going to cost him on Monday or
Mhm.
Friday, and then it's going to cause tension, and then it's going to just make things escalate from there. So it's like I can understand that narrative because even there's a part of me deep down inside that could potentially see that, only because that's just something that we have seen within WWE, even in the Triple H era, it has happened
Yeah.
as well, where we saw certain things play out, and then we saw it happened, the following show. So it's like I understand that whole entire mindset, and there is a part of me that could potentially see that on Monday, only because of that
Mhm.
whole thing where we saw with Jay and Jacob Fatu, where he's like, the way you're looking at me, I'm gonna beat your ass and stuff like that. You never know if
Yeah.
that might try to get under their skin. You never know, they might try to like dig even deeper and just just try to just ruin whatever Roman's trying to do. Because I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if like Solo has something planted in his head where he's like, you know what? It seems like they're trying to get a team together. We're unstoppable right now. We can't really have Roman get any sort of progression with whatever plan he's trying to pursue. So let's take out Jay before it happens. But
Yeah.
even if you think about that, it's kind of like, well, if you try taking out Jay on Monday and cost him his title or whatever, then that's just going to escalate your problem even further, because that gives him a
Mhm.
legitimate reason to actually go after you. So it's like, what are you really thinking to do here, Solo? Like
Yeah.
that's the whole entire thing. But I did bring this
Yeah.
up to you before, when it comes to like the whole thing on Monday, that I'll just throw in here since we're on the topic of that. Of We have this whole thing where it's like, Jay doesn't care about Roman or Jimmy, like we spoke about.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, let's say, hypothetically, Bloodline invades Raw on Monday during his match against Braun Breaker. If I had to make a bold prediction, I would assume it's probably the main event, only because they want
Yeah.
to capture that hot angle to close out the show.
Mhm.
I would assume that match plays out, of course, and then we potentially see something like um some shit starts to break out, and then we see like I don't know if I could say Roman, but potentially Jimmy coming out, because he's really trying to persuade Jay to, let's come together again, do this and that. I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy comes out there and tries to like save Jey from whatever's going on, just so Jey has that little thought cross his head where it's like, maybe they actually are different this time. I mean, I didn't ask him to come out here and help me because obviously I can do this on my own, but maybe that little act that he did shows that he cares about me. Like, that's just talking about predictions of what we could see next week, but that's definitely something I could see playing out because that's the whole issue here. They're outnumbered, and I'm gonna say this right here, right now. I am in the minority where I understand why. Actually, I don't know if I'm getting a little too ahead of myself because we do have a lot of shit to talk about. I might just
Nah, you're good. You're
okay.
good.
But yeah, the only reason why I say that because I know we didn't really tackle everything. I don't know if you wanted to talk about things that were said before I dive into this, or
I guess well the only other thing I'd want to say is just like with the whole idea of like some of the things that we've seen in the past, like some of those tropes and all that, like you were explaining. I think the main difference with the way Triple H has done it compared
yeah,
to the
It's just
past
like
with Vince is the whole just the
see, like,
execution with it, like
rap
the way that Triple
like
H has
you
like
with these
used
guys.
those
he's just
tropes
trying to
has
learn,
been
like, and he's
palatable
not doing
and a
it on
little
purpose
better
either.
No.
to
It's just
deal
like
with
it's
than with
coming
Vince because
naturally,
like
which
mainly with the old regime it's always just been for the shock value to get like the people talking and all that, whereas like with Triple H, like yeah, there are times where like it makes you kind of scratch your head a little bit,
Yeah.
but at least eventually with time you do like start to see the vision and all that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all I got to say about that part. And then like just with like some of the talking and all that, like again, I feel like they could be setting up for just like that attack on Monday. um but yeah, I don't have any other theories beyond that except for like I don't know because like it's tough because it's like, you know, does Jay go back because oh they attacked me and cost me my title and all that? Like there's got to be more to it. Like
Yeah, that's just too simple.
yeah, because like and kind of like what you said, it's like okay, even if they do attack, like that's just adding another team member. But like they could always do, since they do have Crown Jewel coming up in like a week or two, they could always do like an injury angle kind of thing where it like kind of writes Jay off for like a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you know he makes this big comeback either before or during Survivor Series. Like I'm still in the boat that like thinks he's going to be like, because we do this trope too. We did it with Randy Orton last year. I know we did, but it's just like there's a deeper story with it when it comes to like Jay showing up last minute to help out.
Yeah.
So like we could be doing that angle too with War Games at Survivor Series, with that part. But like yeah, I mean, after commercial, yeah, we could pretty much move on from here because like, so I didn't really catch much of the one backstage segment with like Roman and Jimmy in their room, which is also kind of weird because when you think back to like when Mania ended, they weren't allowed in that room
Yeah, I know.
anymore. They were kicked out for Cody, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, fine, whatever, but yeah, I don't know if you wanted to mention more in
Oh
that
yeah.
aspect, but I didn't really see too much besides like the ending where Roman's like, "Oh, I'll acknowledge him." Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, pretty much what you saw there was just a continuation of what we saw
Okay.
when Roman and Jimmy like came out of the car, because obviously the show started off with the Bloodline and
Hmm.
Jey Uso, but then we saw eventually when Roman and Jimmy came to the show when they arrived at the arena, and it was pretty much the whole aftermath after that, where they came out of the car, they were walking towards the arena, probably to go to the room or whatever, I would assume, because that's the next time we saw them. And that's
Yeah.
when they came across Jay, where like Jay looked at them, he had that look on his face, he was walking away, and he had that whole moment where Roman came up to him and he's like, he's proud of him, pretty much showing that progression that Roman should have in this situation, especially
Hmm.
considering the sort of obstacle that's in his way, even though I don't really believe Solo's that big of a threat to begin with, but that's a story for another
Yeah.
day. But it's like, it just shows some good progression where it's like, oh, holy shit, you know, he
Mhm.
left us and he's a champion now. He's over as fuck. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just good acknowledgement to show, like, you know, you did good. And then you had Roman just tell Jimmy that, you know, hey, I'm very you see Jimmy, you know, I tried doing things with him or whatever. He didn't seem interested. He said no yeet. He walked away. And there was another segment where we saw Roman sitting in the office with Jimmy, like you were just talking about. And Jimmy was just bringing up to Roman that he should he told Roman that he should go talk to Jey, and Roman tells him if the wise man was here right now, this probably would be solved, which it probably would have,
Yeah.
because when it comes to situations like this, I mean, Paul Heyman knows how to nail things down. Like he knows how to orchestrate everything so it's done properly or whatever. So without
Mhm.
without overthinking anything, you know, Paul Heyman would just go to Dre directly and talk to him. And you could have possibly built off that whole entire angle that we saw before when Jey came across the bloodline for the very first time and Paul
Yeah.
Heyman was giving him a look out of desperation where he's like, hey, you know, I got to get out of here. These
Mhm.
people are bad news. You could have built off of that. And then we had that whole entire segment end where Jimmy says, you know, Roman, how are you going to do everything? And this ends up leading into what we saw later in the night to pretty much close out the show, where we had Roman Reigns come out. He had those OTC chants going very loud. And it's really good because I saw a lot of clips, like ever since, you know, Roman turned babyface, like he still acts like the Roman Reigns we
Mhm.
know. Nothing has really
Yeah.
changed, but he is a babyface now. But it's just really nice to see that sort of progression with Roman's character. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people talked about this already. We probably talked about it already in our show, but it's just really nice to see that sort of progression of Roman's character, because in the early stages of Roman's career, like a lot of people had a hard time accepting Roman. He was forced around. He was forced down people's
Mhm.
throats. Nobody gave a shit about him. Nothing was organic. Things were just forced because John Cena was on his way out and they wanted to find their replacement and everything. But it's just nice to see that sort of progression where it's like all it took was a simple heel turn to completely
Yep.
elevate his character, and then once time came, he turned to babyface again, and everything worked out organically. Everything played out the way that it probably should have been done all those years ago if they had the blueprint that they had before. But I
All
do,
that suffering succotash we had to
yeah,
suffer through. Like, oh my gosh, the suffering succotash,
yeah.
the belt tug of war with Brock Lesnar, the freaking dog food. Like, I mean, we went through so much just to get Roman to the level that he's
Oh
at
yeah,
now.
and it's great because
Um,
he's like
yeah,
the main attraction of WWE. I mean, I love Cody Rhodes a lot. Trust me, I'm a big Cody guy. But
yeah,
Roman Reigns is the top guy of that brand. I mean, I look at
yeah,
Cody and Roman as 1A and 1B. They're both the top guys of the company. And it's
yeah. And so like with this whole Roman thing, because like when it comes out to talk to Solo, like
yeah,
first of all, I'm glad they actually like are having a promo here, like
yeah,
talking to each other, like how Roman's just like, oh, you know, you're saying you're doing this for the family, you're
that whole
saying that
entire
like you're
mindset. And there
making us
is a
better, but
part,
you're really
Roman
not,
thing.
because like
Like,
when
we're
it
not at the
comes out to
top
talk
right
to
now.
Solo, like
yeah,
We're
first
like
of all,
in the
I'm glad
mid
they
level.
actually
Like,
like are
it's great
having
that
a
you
pro.
guys have the tag titles. That's cool. That's neat. That's awesome. But
That's not enough. That was
honestly.
never enough when I was on top, you know, when I was running things. And even though Roman kind of acknowledges Solo, Solo presses further and like basically saying, look, I'm gonna if you don't truly acknowledge me, I'm gonna do something.
Yeah.
Like, you
Acknowledge
better
him as the
acknowledge
tribal
me or
chief.
else. And
Yeah.
then like when Roman snapped and was just like, or else what? And Solo calls him out on that. That was the moment that like everything else Roman said earlier, it just clicked because it's just like, you know, he's saying these things. He's saying these things like, oh, Jay, I acknowledge you. I'm proud of you. Like, those are great words to say, but when dealing with an abuser, they're gonna say things like that. Like, I mean, just look at how like even before he said that, he grabbed Jay by the arm to make sure he didn't go too far. Like that right there is just big red flag of like, okay, you haven't really changed much. And then like him telling Jimmy, like, even though he's a face and all that,
Mm-hmm.
he's still the same Roman. He's still like, okay, we tried it your way. Now we're gonna do it my way, the correct way. And then like him like acknowledging Solo, it's like, okay, I'm saying the words, so maybe now you can just shut up. And it's like then Solo pokes the bear. Roman responds like that, and it's like, okay, now we're seeing what this is. Because like Roman's not really sorry. He's not really trying to like make amends with Jay, obviously. But like we're seeing that not only played out through his actions, but now we can see it played out through his words and how he's saying things. And again, it's gonna lead to that moment where he finally has to like be real, not only with the people around him, but with himself too. Because it's like he's not going to be able to take power back from Solo like this, and that's the whole crux of all this. Because like even with them, like the only ally Roman has right now is Jimmy, and once Jimmy's down, I mean, yeah, Roman can stand up to the bloodline. Like, I mean, he had them all down for a bit, but after that, I mean, one low blow takes him out, and then they just destroy him after that. And who's out to help him? Well, nobody, because Jimmy's gone. He's done. He
Yeah,
can't do
they brought
anything.
him out. He was already fucked up to begin with.
Yeah, like it's gonna get to a point where Roman doesn't know what to do, and Paul Heyman's gonna be like, when Paul Heyman comes back, that's gonna be like the next step in all
I'll
of
be
this because
honest,
he's
I'm
gonna be.
honestly surprised he's not back already. I thought he was coming back around like
I am
SummerSlam.
too.
And we've even
Mhm.
seen him on interviews, and I know that's not
Yeah.
canon to what's going on in WWE right now, but we even seen him in interviews with Roman Reigns. So like he's in
Mhm.
good condition and everything, but obviously he's still trying to sell what happened. But still, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess I can say that I am happy that they're doing this because at least it
Mhm.
shows that inner struggle with Roman, where it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to do things on my own now. Like I can't really
Mhm.
rely on the wise man to be here to actually guide me. Like I actually have to structure things to actually figure out what I'm going to do next. And maybe that's
Yeah.
what they're doing because they want Roman to just organically figure out exactly how to be a
Mhm.
leader and how to lead a group and stuff without Paul Heyman being there, because Paul Heyman was there to basically do that whole shebang. Roman was the tribal chief,
Right.
he had other people do things he had other people do things for him, but now we're at the point where, Roman has to figure out things on his own. And I actually do like that sort of direction we're going down, because if you look at it that way, it's like Roman has to realize the reason why he got to where he was to begin with was his family.
Yeah.
And that's something that he's going to have to like really take in account once we dive deeper into the story. Like we're slowly getting there, and I'm pretty sure he realizes that. But that's basically the main point that they're trying to cover here, where it's like, okay, Roman, you got to realize that, Jimmy's important, Jay's important, whatever else comes out of that is important. You
Mhm.
have to take that into account when you're looking at everything that's happening around you. So that's something I can say is good when it comes to Paul Heyman not being there, because if Paul Heyman was there, I'm pretty sure he's coming back. Because
Oh
if
yeah.
Paul Heyman was there, I guess that would probably take away that if Paul Heyman was just inserted in the role he was before. So seeing that side of Roman there in that very situation is actually pretty interesting. And
Yeah.
the one thing I will say, and I'll let you give the
Oh
rest of
yeah.
your thoughts on here. But the one thing I will say that I did stop myself, because we didn't really get to that point until this very
Mhm.
moment, was how they ended the show. I understand why they
Oh
did
yeah.
it, because they wanted the bloodline to look strong. They wanted the bloodline to look like a legitimate threat when it comes to the sort of dominance that they're bringing to SmackDown or within WWE, but mainly it's just SmackDown because they're not really doing shit on
Yeah.
Raw. But my only issue with this is that it's a angle that we've seen done many times. Like, it's not just once, it's not just twice. It's a good 3 to 4 or so times we've seen this exact angle play out. The only difference is that
Mhm.
Jimmy is here now, but without Jimmy in the picture, we've seen this happen to Roman a good couple times now. And it's kind of like unsettling where it's like you could have been a little bit more creative here. You could have done something a little bit
Yeah.
different, the way that you wanted to map it out or whatever. So it's like I can understand the sort of criticism that people have with that, because even I have an issue with that. Where even when I
Mhm.
was watching with my family, because that's something I normally do every Monday and Friday, or even the PLEs, I sit down and watch the show play out with my family. And
Yeah.
my mother, which she grew up watching wrestling, she's a big fan and everything. She's the main reason why I got into it to begin with. But even, someone like her that doesn't do content like us or whatever, she even looks into the shows and she could, look at it and be like, we saw the show end the exact same way. Like, why can't they do a little bit different? Like, even if, when it comes to
Mhm.
somebody like that, like my mom, doesn't do a little analysis like we do, that picks up on those little things. Like, that really tells you something. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping they can, figure out, something else to do, because obviously this is far from over. This is going to be a story that's going to lead throughout the rest of the year and probably pour into next year, possibly, because I'm not
Oh,
entirely
totally.
sure what's going to be
We
happening.
still got a few years with this bloodline
Oh
thing. Like
yeah,
we're like
but
this isn't even gonna come close to
yeah.
ending until we get Roman and Rock.
Yeah, but I'm hoping they figure out, like, to do something a little bit more exciting, like actually
Mhm.
end off with like maybe a little story focused thing, instead of being Roman remaining tall,
Yeah.
or Solo and the Bloodline remaining tall. Like, try to end off the show like a little bit different. Like, maybe throw something in there when it comes to like the overall story, where it's like, holy shit,
Right.
there's another little detail thrown in there, like something like that. Just like be a little bit more creative. Like, that's my whole thing with that.
Yeah,
I
because I
will
mean
be
that.
right back.
Oh yeah, you're good. And because I mean that kind of leads into my issues I was having with during, if you guys remember, the whole Judgment Day part. Because the Judgment Day stuff was kind of ending the same way, where it's just like, oh, Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley get beat down, herpa derpa 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 der. But it's like I can kind of forgive that because, like, on one hand, that's mainly for me. I can kind of get that because it's part of like building up or like getting footage for like the promo packages and all that. So that's kind of what I think of with when we start getting repeated segments like that, or like repeated moments where it's like, okay, we're just gonna be doing the beat down again, like, oh, Roman's down again. Oh, now freaking Jacob Fatu's up down and Solo's up and all that, and like the bloodline's up and all that. So like that's kind of where I chalk down a lot of these things. But I do get the criticism with that because, like, especially as weekly watchers and all that, like, we want something new, we want something modern, something more than the internet and all that. But like we want something to really sink our teeth into and something to like make us want to watch and tune in the next week. And if we just keep getting the same things over and over again, well, we're gonna get bored of that and all that. But again, I kind of just chalk all that up to um just being trying to be part of the video package and all that. So yeah, hopefully you guys are having fun in the chat as well. I know again it's a little bit of late night and all that, but hey, we're here to talk about SmackDown. We're gonna go through the show, continue onwards. But yeah, I think we both pretty much said what we wanted to. There's obviously gonna be some more things going on. But we'll have to, I mean, we'll talk about those when we do them. But there's a lot of character work to kind of dive into, and I kind of want to go back to that segment. There was a segment like a year ago. It was over a year ago when the original Bloodline was splitting, and it was the one. It was a very long segment too, where like they had the Ulafala in the middle of the ring and everyone was like going after it and like Solo had it for like a few seconds or whatever. I kind of want to go back to that segment because I feel like there's a lot of foreshadowing in that when it comes to like what's happening right now within the Bloodline storyline. But you know what? I think we're gonna just go ahead and move on with what we have to talk about because again, we have a lot of other stuff to really dive into. One of them being Cody Rhodes trying to cut a promo for this crown jewel title that is going on right now. Um, one thing I love about Cody is he's a good salesman. He gets the business, he gets all of that. So he comes out to cut this promo on the crown jewel title and facing Gunther and all that. First of all, before we even dive into all that, they are trying to make the crown jewel title feel so freaking important, more important than the WWE title. Like the crown jewel title, first of all, it being a huge, massive title belt that nobody's going to be wearing unless your name is like Yokozuna, Braun Strowman, uh, Andre the Giant, The Big Show. Like, that's a huge title for some, not necessarily tiny people, but for some tinier people than the names I named off. So Cody's trying to make this title feel important, and this title coming in on its own Pelican case and all that cool, neat, awesome, fan freaking tastic. But yeah, Cody's just a good salesman. He knows how to kind of sell things because, like, his promo here about like how we never got some dream matches, and he mentioned some too. We have them in our notes. Like, oh, what if we had gotten the NWA World's Champion Harley Race facing off with the WWF Champion Bruno Sammartino? He, names Nick Bockwinkel and Ric Flair, Goldberg and Stone Cold. Like these are what if matches that we never really got in the WWE, WCW, whatever company and all that. So like he's trying to hype it up with like him facing Gunther for the first time and like the world champion versus the WWE champion. But like my one gripe with that though is we've gotten that before. Like we've gotten that multiple times in WWE. And like I see Cody talking about, oh, well, dream match this, dream match that, and blah, 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 blah. What if scenarios? And it's just like, well, that's cool, neat, awesome, but those are like cross promotion you're talking about, not cross brand like Raw and SmackDown. Like you're not talking about facing off against Kenny Omega if he was the AEW champion, or I guess like present right now. It's not like Cody's like, oh, this is gonna be Cody Rhodes versus John Moxley. Like that's not what we're leaning towards. Like this is just you versus Gunther, which is still going to be a really good match, but that's whatever. The size the point. Um, but yeah, he basically. Oh, I see drops coming back. Uh, yeah, there you go. What's up? I kind of moved on
Oh no,
because
that's
I feel
fine.
like, yeah, I feel like we kind of both talked about the bloodline enough. I was just going off on this Cody promo
Oh
about
yeah.
basically saying, how good of a salesman he is, mentioning like some of these older guys and how we didn't get these what ifs, but like how we kind of have gotten that in WWE with like the WWE champion versus the world champion and scenarios like that. Like it's not like we're doing cross promotion and all that.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I left off.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you had any words about his promo itself.
See,
So I'll just pass it on to you.
here's the thing I'll say. Um, I love Cody Rhodes. I'm a big Cody Rhodes fan, just like walk-ins
Mhm.
and Vashes. And one of the things that Cody does very well is he's a very good promo, very good storyteller, and he knows how to sell a match.
Mhm.
And I know the match between him and Gunther is going to be great because they're both great competitors. I mean, we've even seen previews. We even seen a preview of a match they had last year, not this year, but last year when Roman and Gunther were the last ones at Royal Rumble. We know that they can go. We know that they can put on a good match. And a lot of people are really into that. And so it's like I appreciate the whole history lesson that Cody was giving us, where he was
Yeah.
talking like, oh, where he was mentioning like Harley Race and going up against Bruno Sammartino, or Nick Bockwinkel going up against Ric Flair, or Bill Goldberg going up against Stone Cold Steve Austin. So it's like, I appreciate, him bringing all of that up, because he's really trying to sell you on the match, which is his job, and he should be doing that. So I understand why he's doing it. It's just when it comes to these Saudi shows, I'm just not the biggest fan. This is gonna be a reoccurring theme whenever we get close to the end of the year, where you're gonna hear the exact same thing for me. I mean, this is going to be a recurring thing you're gonna hear from me, because this is going to be a main thing that they're going to be doing annually throughout the year.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm just not a big fan of this, because this is just like Braun Strowman winning the greatest Royal Rumble. He got that green title. You saw it that day. What happened to it? I mean, that's pretty much the end of the story right here. You're going to see either Cody or Gunther win. You're going to acknowledge it that day. They might bring it up in a couple promos or whatever, just for bragging rights. And then you're going to forget about it until next November, when you have whoever is champion at the time going for it. So I don't really care about the match. I mean, I don't really, I can't say I care about the match because of who's in it. And there's also that part of me as well that would wish for better builds when it came to a match like Cody and Gunther, because that's not something that you just throw together like that. Like, that's a big money match. Like, that's like a big PLE level kind of match. Like, that's definitely a WrestleMania match, I can definitely say. So it's like, not a big fan of it, but I do, like I said, I appreciate him trying to sell it the best that he possibly can, which he did a very good job doing that. And I like the comments that he said to Gunther, where he's like, Gunther can chop a tree down with his hand, and most men are terrified of Gunther, but he isn't. And even if he was, he wouldn't bet against himself. And he even had, which is true, because, Gunther is a force to be reckoned with, because we've seen Gunther go up against some of the greatest wrestlers that we've seen within the business when it comes to his career. We've seen that triple threat between him and Drew McIntyre last year, WrestleMania 39. That was probably one of my favorite matches that came out of WrestleMania. We've seen him just going up against Sheamus in their matches, which are really great. We just look at Gunther's whole entire Intercontinental run. There's like a couple matches you could pull from there when it comes to, the top competitors that were really good and very entertaining, because Gunther, he can't put on a bad match. I mean, that's just the thing with Gunther. Gunther always delivers banger after banger. Like, he just delivers really good matches. That's just Gunther's cup of tea. That's just what he's known for. And I like how, well, and then we had some comments where, like, Cody said things about the belt, where he's like, one of the most beautifully designed title belts in the history of the sport. The beauty, with the beauty is skin deep. And which I'll admit, I do like the way the title is designed, because it looks like a really big fucking title. I will say that. So I do like how the title's designed. I don't like what the title represents. I do like how it's designed. And just to let you guys in on a little secret, that wasn't WWE funding their money creating that title. That was the Saudis funding their money to create that title. Like, that whole entire title was Saudi making that themselves. Just like the whole annual event they want there. That's just their whole entire thing. They paid WWE for them to come over there and do this. Just to let you guys know on a little secret.
Like, I remember I was listening to a Cultaholic news video this week, and they had mentioned that there were like, remember this was back when we first got the World Heavyweight title, and we had like the tournament, and then the finals was during a Saudi show. It was Night of Champions and all that. But before then, we thought we were getting King and Queen of the Ring leading up to that, and we didn't. Apparently, that was a Saudi choice, and they were the ones that kind of changed the creative right there. It was where they were like, okay, well, we don't want that. We want world heavyweight title and all that. It's like, okay, well, you guys are changing our plans, but fine, whatever. So like this is just another case of that happening where it's like, oh, the Saudi the Saudi princes want this. They want Yokozuna. They want Andre the Giant at their shows. It's like, well, you can't, but we'll give you something to like, you know.
Yeah.
And I think WWE does have a good opportunity here. Not necessarily for this year, but for years to come beyond this. Like now that they're making this an annual thing, now they can kind of tie this in with a story. Kind of like what they do with war games now, where it's like, okay, even though it's it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it's November, that means war games, herpaderpaderpader. But like they at least have feuds that make sense going into that and like
Yeah.
building war games with what's going on. Now in the future they can start doing that with this Saudi this crown jewel title because it's
Yeah.
like this first one it's like, okay, yeah, we kind of got to do this, but like now we can get to a point, in later years where it's like, okay, we've never seen Gunther and let's just say Seth Rollins. Let's just say like Gunther still has the World Heavyweight title, and for somehow, some reason, Seth Rollins has the WWE title. We haven't seen that yet before. There's
Yeah.
a dream match that you could have, like kind of playing on the words that Cody said here in his promo with like the whole dream match
Yeah.
thing. So we at least we at least have something for the future going on with this. But like in the present, in the now, yeah, I kind of wish there was more build too with it. I at least appreciate that we get more of Cody's why. And I mean, it's something that, you always kind of think about. And he's kind of mentioned before, especially being the big old baby face that he is. Mainly, he has a daughter at home. And
Yeah.
that's why he does what he does. Like, he will literally, what do you say?
That's
Truth be
last note
told,
we have.
he needs to know that when his bones turn to dust, his name will be attached to that title as the first champion, and that's something big. Like I remember, like this kind of actually speaks to like a personal note here. Back when I was in high school, my senior year, I actually went to a new high school, like a brand new high school in my town, and I went there because I was like, okay, I kind of want to cement a legacy, kind of want to like start a few things and be like the first. Bleh. And with with the band and all that, I was actually the first person to win, like to earn the John Philip Sousa Award, which like you get your name on this plaque and everybody's all like, "We're her, you're cool." It's like neat, awesome. But like being like one of the first people on that plaque, like I remember like at the high school I went before then, like seeing the names on there, like yeah, I didn't recognize some of them, but like you look at the year, that's mainly what you look at
Yeah.
is like the year when that person was and like seeing some of them date back to like 30, 40 years. I was like, man, that's so cool. And like to be the first one in that line is something really cool. And like I was happy to have gotten that. So like I can see where Cody's coming from, where it's like I want to be the first one of that. I want to be the one to start that legacy.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's like again, Cody's a good promo and he can get you hooked on something. He can sell you something. I I can almost guarantee he can sell you a rock for more than it's worth.
Yeah,
Like,
that's just the kind of thing he is because that's just the interesting part about Cody's evolution. Because looking
mhm,
at how he was before compared to how he is now, it's a huge change because this is coming from a guy that started off in WWE
mhm,
and he was a homegrown talent there. And then obviously things fell off. Things were heading down the direction that he didn't really like. He was very vocal about that. We already know the
yeah,
whole story behind that. And he went back to rebuild himself to become the kind of person that he is now. And it's just great to see that whole journey that he had. I mean, I watched that documentary that came out last year, just going over his whole entire journey, leading him to where he was back then, all the way to where he
mhm,
is now. It's just really great just to see him in this position that he is now, because he always believed that he was capable of being where he is now. And that's something I really admire about him, is that he believed in himself and he decided to take a risk on himself, just like Matt Cardona did as well.
Yep.
And other people that wanted to rebuild themselves to show their worth, to show, hey, you fucked up. And looking at where he is now, it's great. It's just great to see him here. And like, just adding on to what you said earlier about the whole thing with his daughter, I mean, the first night on Monday Night Raw, when we were having the whole entire celebration with Cody after he won the title that he's always wanted, the main reason why he came back to the company to begin with, we saw that little video that Cody had where he was talking about he showed the little clip of his daughter and stuff. He's a family man. He
Mhm.
cares a lot about his daughter. And that's something that I can understand where he's
Yeah.
coming from when it comes to that sort of thing. So it's like you can appreciate like what Cody's doing to sell the match. You can understand how he's trying to get you emotionally invested because, like I said, that's his job. That's what he's supposed to do. So it's
Mhm.
like, with all of that in mind, like, I do appreciate, but I still feel the same way I do about the
Oh
title.
yeah.
Because like,
Yeah. Like.
as much as I love what Cody Rhodes is doing, it's not gonna change how I feel about the
Mhm.
whole title thing to begin with. Because
Exactly. It's like, you're trying to, sell it on me. It's fine. It's cool. It's neat. It's awesome. But yeah, it's just, it still
but
leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
but what we are seeing next week is like towards the end of all of that, when he was giving his whole entire promo and everything, he
Yeah.
did invite Gunther to SmackDown next Friday so he can stand in the ring with him. And he mentioned that he would want to look at him in the eyes and ask him, obviously, his old catchphrase, what he
You
wants to
talk about.
talk about, which
Yeah.
is something I am interested in. I mean, obviously we saw
Mhm.
it play out. What was it? This Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened throughout the week. That's why I forgot. But
Yeah.
yeah, we saw him talk about it. Talk with Gunther this Monday.
Mhm.
So I am hoping that here's the thing with that. I'm hoping they get some time to talk. I don't want to see any shenanigans playing out. That's why I am happy for the time being that Randy, which we'll get into right after this,
No, don't
um,
worry, people.
but
Stay tuned.
I am happy that Randy and KO is the focus when it comes to, okay, what's this whole KO situation about? I'm glad it's just
Mhm. Same
remained
here.
between the both of them, and Cody's not thrown into it because of this. Because like I personally wouldn't be a big of a fan if we had this whole Cody and Gunther thing. I mean, I'm not even a fan of it to begin with, but I wouldn't like it any less. I wouldn't like it if you had the whole thing going on with Cody and Gunther, and all of a sudden KO gets involved, tries to screw Cody, some stupid shit over that or whatever. I don't want
Yeah.
to see that personally. Like, if you want to do the match, I mean, obviously you're gonna do the match. Give us a legitimate winner. I don't want to see any fuck. I mean, okay, I'll be honest here. I don't know who's gonna win this match. My
I
prediction,
don't either.
my
It's a
prediction
toss. It's a toss up.
My
Like.
prediction is I'm gonna say Gunther for now. I'm gonna see where the
Mhm.
story leads us, because it's that whole thing that Gunther mentioned when the titles revealed the first time about how Triple H is gonna wrap it around his waist. That
Yep.
threw me off guard a little bit. I don't know if there's gonna be any shenanigans playing out with that, where it's like, oh, you're overly confident here, but yet again, that's Gunther's character. But
Mhm.
not like my biggest gripe with this is since you're just on the topic of that, is neither of these guys like really can't afford a loss in this scenario. They're the world
They
champions.
can't.
The only time that they could take a loss is if hypothetically they're in a match, somebody pins them. That's your next challenger, because that's a common thing that WWE does every so often. But
Yeah.
other than that, just brushing that to the side, the champion shouldn't be getting pinned unless they're losing that title. And it's hard to me
Yeah.
to really see Cody and Gunther in this situation, because neither of them can afford a loss, because they're the top guys of their brand, and they're supposed to be leading that brand, and they're supposed to be looking strong. So I think that's like the biggest the gripe I had with this. But as we get closer to Crown Jewel, and once we get more things involved, we'll have different thoughts to share. But
Hmm. I think one thing that kind of benefits from that too is this year we have seen both of them get pinned.
yeah, we did.
Um, so there's at least that, but like, yeah, it's kind of hard to really talk about because yeah, I agree with you. It's like neither of them should get pinned, let alone submit. Like, don't have either of them submit.
No, I wouldn't
I
like that.
mean, they could do the pass out thing with Cody,
See that
but
that's what I'm expecting. Like obviously
yeah,
we'll talk
like
about it a little bit more down the line, but that's what I'm expecting to see. Like at this very
yeah,
point, I'm expecting to see like Gunther to put Cody in that sleeper hold and Cody to pass out.
yeah. Which I
That
mean, we've seen that a lot too.
yeah,
Like there's also
which
that. Like
which I wouldn't be
yeah,
surprised if they try to do some spot in the match where it's like Gunther tries to do it and Cody's really fighting and he actually fights through it
yeah.
to
Oh,
actually
that'd be
just
cool. That'd be the
to
moment.
actually show like his raw strength, how he's willing to continue on without being taken down just like that. But
Yeah.
obviously we're not there yet. We got 2 more weeks, I believe,
Hmm.
before we get into the whole thing. So we're gonna have to wait and
Yeah,
see.
about yeah.
We have to
Yeah,
we're
about 2 more weeks.
yeah. So we'll see how things are on Monday, and then we'll see how things are next Friday, and etc. So on. But this
Yeah.
Randy stuff is what I want to get
Oh,
into next because I wanted to talk.
oh,
I
this
wanted to
Randy.
include it in its own little segment because yes,
Hmm.
Cody and obviously Cody had his whole entire thing. We wanted to spend some time talking about that, but the whole entire thing with Randy is what I was really interested in because I don't know if you guys noticed, but throughout the week, Kevin Owens was actually putting out videos explaining how certain things, how things are being played out behind the scenes and how WWE asked him to go away last week. He wasn't supposed to be on the show, and he came on the show anyway because it's his job. He's supposed to be there anyway. And we pretty much I'll pretty much talk about the Kevin Owens video that came
Yeah.
out today because I remember when I got home from work, I saw it pop up on Twitter, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Same here.
I gotta bookmark this, and I gotta like watch it on my computer because my phone was dying and it was at like 1%. I couldn't
Yep.
watch it on there,
Same
so
here.
I had all my shit on my bed before I was able to clean it off. Like that bed you see right there, I had a whole bunch of
Hmm.
I had like my backpack and my sweatshirt, a whole bunch of stuff there. I
Yeah.
had to I had to put away, so I wasn't able to do it right off the bat. But we pretty much see the Kevin Owens clip air where where he ends up reflecting on his just to sum it up, he ends up reflecting on his 10 years in
Hmm.
WWE, and he was expressing his frustrations about being told to stay home after attacking, the golden boy, the 1A, 1B thing I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier when it comes to the top guys in the company, Cody Rhodes. And it was leading him to question his value in the company, which pretty much means like, oh, do I matter at all? Does he really give a shit what
Hmm.
I have to say or whatever? And he even mentions, Kevin Owens even mentions like how he's hurt by Randy Orton's betrayal, as he never would have turned his back on him, and he couldn't believe that Randy Orton chose Cody Rhodes over him, and he was unsure of his future in WWE, and he admits he doesn't know if or when he'll return.
Yeah.
And just to give some thoughts on that, I do like how this is being played out because they're trying to make it feel like a real situation. They're trying to keep that whole real feeling alive. So I do like how we're having these little videos being played out on Twitter because that's something that they've been doing recently, especially with The Rock. They were building up
Hmm.
his match with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins on these little Twitter videos and stuff. But I like how they're starting to do this now because we even saw it in today's episode of SmackDown where we saw that little clip of Kevin Owens attacking Cody outside of his bus, and then we saw the clip that aired today. I like how they're doing something a little bit different to tell the story. I think that's actually pretty cool because we don't normally see that. It's usually whatever we see on television bleeds into the next show. So I
Well,
do
like,
like how they're doing that.
yeah, especially with the footage of Kevin Owens
Yeah.
attacking Cody. Like,
Yeah.
I remember weeks back, like, there were some people that didn't like that, but I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this is awesome because, like,
Yeah.
you're getting the fans involved, you're making your universe feel lived in. And, like, I think that's the most important thing with this Kevin Owens stuff because, like, Kevin had like two videos come out this week. He had one where he's like sitting in his hotel room being like, look, they kicked me out of SmackDown. They said I couldn't come in, and I gave them a video. I gave them something to like air on Raw, and they didn't. So it's like, okay, if they don't, I'm gonna air it. And I like too how like, yeah, like you said, he aired it on Twitter, mainly because
Yeah.
he was just like, okay, I don't think they're gonna air this, so here you guys go. But like, it wasn't just that. Like WWE did end up airing it too, so it's like they are aware too. Like they could have done a thing where like they kind of suppressed the video, or like maybe Kevin. What would have been really cool is if, because you know how sometimes when like a company takes down the video on Twitter and
Yeah.
you get like the little message that says, "Oh, this media isn't available anymore" or something.
Yeah.
That would have been cool if they could have pulled that off. Like if they were able
Yeah.
to like take that video down like that, and then like we get a follow-up. I mean, this could still happen too, but like we get a follow-up with Kevin being like on Twitter, maybe he's on like,
Yeah.
and you get like the little message that says, Instagram or "Oh, like this media
TikTok or like a
isn't
different
available anymore" or
one,
something, but it's like a
Yeah.
different account. And
That
it's
would
just
have
like,
been
okay,
cool
you
if
know
they
what? They want to censor me. All right, fine, bet. Here you go. Here's like this thing. Like they do have a great opportunity to continue to use
Yeah.
social media like that.
Another thing I do want to add on to that whole entire thing with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton is that
Mhm.
Kevin Owens doesn't really know what happened with Randy Orton with the whole entire angle that played out. Because to
Yeah.
Kevin Owens, to him, it felt like he hit one of the security guards that was trying to get on top of him when
Yeah.
he was, taking out all of his frustration at that particular moment. He didn't really know at that point the main reason why Randy Orton came after him is because when Kevin Owens was like fighting the security guards and everything, he ended up elbowing Randy Orton without even noticing it. That's the whole reason why Kevin Owens is looking this way, looking at Randy Orton in this way because of how that played
Mhm.
out. He doesn't know that he did that. That's the
Yeah.
main reason why Randy Orton wants to get his hands on him because of KO hitting him in that moment. And then when they were trying to talk things out later, you had Kevin Owens hitting him because he thought that Randy Orton purposely put his hands on Kevin Owens in that
Mhm.
situation. And so that's the interesting part about it, is that he didn't know
Yeah.
he did something to lead up into the situation that's being played out, which is it's pretty interesting to me that they're
Mhm.
doing that.
And like mhm. And like it even goes deeper than that too, because like when this whole situation's going on, I mean, they're holding Kevin back, and Kevin, he knows he knows what they're doing. Like that, see that's what I love about all this, because like it's relatable,
Yeah.
and like you could see that, especially with Kevin being like, "Oh, I'm not their poster boy. I'm not the golden child. I'm not the goose that'll make you money and all that." Because like even though he was Universal Champion for a bit, he was still never the top guy,
No.
and it kind of harkens back to an interview that Sami Zayn had like a year ago, saying like he could never see himself being the top guy, like being world champion. Yeah, that's great, that's awesome, but like I couldn't do the interviews, I couldn't do like the sponsorships, like all the stuff that Cody does, being the company man and all that. Like Sammy even said, I'm not the company man type of guy. And I mean, KO is kind of the same way,
Yeah.
but like now we're kind of incorporating that idea into the storyline where it's just like, okay, they're protecting Cody. That's not fair. Why can't they protect the rest of us, like me and all that? And like now he's seeing that like Randy, l- let's just throw that out there. Randy Orton, of all people, is trying to play peacekeeper for Cody Rhodes. What? Nani the fuck? Like, what is going on here? Why, Randy? I thought we had something special, and like that. That's why I think Kevin's the most hurt, is because to him, kind of playing off of what you said, like for him, Randy didn't really try to talk to Kevin
No, he mentioned it
at
several
first, at least.
times. Like he mentioned it
Hmm.
several times when ever since that whole vignette played with Roman and Cody talking, and Kevin
Yeah.
started feeling differently about Cody, and how he was saying to Cody he was going to talk to KO about everything that's going on. He didn't bring it up until the end of that match when Cody came out to help defend them, and then Jacob Fatu played it out where Cody was trying to jump in there to fuck over Kevin Owens in that match that he was in to like prevent him from winning, which he ended up getting
Yeah.
pinned because of that. But it's like Randy Orton never said anything until he came up to him. Was like, I was supposed to. I told you. Um, I forgot. I forgot to tell you that I told him to come out here to help us and everything like that. And I believe he mentioned
Hmm.
it another time as well, and he never said anything. So it's almost like in a way, it's he's trying to purposely put Kevin Owens in this situation that he's in. I
Yeah.
don't think Kevin Owens and him are like in on this where they're trying to,
No.
fuck everything up, because it really doesn't make sense with like the kind of story that they're being told, because at the end of the day that's kind of like stupid if they're purposely attacking each other just for the hell of it. Like that doesn't really make any
Yeah.
sense. Like that's something definitely we would see in the past, but knowing how Randy, I mean, you gotta look at how Randy Orton feels. Just get into
Yeah.
the mind of Randy Orton. Ever since he came back at Survivor Series last year during the War Games match, he's been on a constant losing streak. And if I
Hmm.
was put into this situation, I can only handle it for so long, where it's like, I'm having all these big matches, but I'm losing them because you have like I'm not even gonna include the Survivor Series match, but you even had that match with Roman, LA Knight, and AJ Styles that we saw at Royal Rumble this year.
Hmm.
You saw how he had that big match and then he ended up losing. And then there's probably another match that I'm forgetting about. Or well,
Yeah.
pretty much in a nutshell, he's just been on this constant losing streak. He's hasn't really been able to win any of these big matches to really catapult him to be where he wants to be. And you would think that the people that are surrounding you are really putting you down, where it's like, why am I associating with these people if they keep having me lose over and over and over again to the bloodline?
Hmm.
Now you have Cody working with Roman doing this and that. So in a way it's kind of like, Randy's trying to purposely put KO in this situation to destroy the friendship with Cody and destroy the friendship with him. And then Randy now wants to get his hands on KO when obviously in the near future, when the time comes, he's going to turn on Cody, and then we're going to get that full on explanation, which I'm pretty sure, and I will reference it whenever we do get that whole promo of Randy Orton when he does turn heel and he hits an RKO on Cody, which I like how they're building up to it, because obviously we have that
Hmm.
typical thing where it's like his RKO out of nowhere, but I like how it's being built up organically, where they want it
Yeah.
to actually have an impact instead of just happening, like they actually want to plan it out properly. So I
Yeah.
like how they're actually taking their time with it. But I will point this out whenever he cuts that promo where he's like, the reason why I did what I did is because I came back, I kept losing, losing, and losing, and I was surrounded by you guys, which I thought you were my friends, but you kept having me lose, and you kept putting me all these different kinds of situations. That's not who Randy Orton is. Randy Orton isn't
Yeah.
known to be a loser. Like if he ever cuts a promo and he mentions any of those little things in there, I will reference what I said in this podcast today.
Mhm.
But that actually does bleed into like the little backstage segment that we saw, where we saw Nick Aldis and Randy Orton.
Yeah.
And Orton demanded a match against Kevin Owens at Crown Jewel. And then we saw that Nick Aldis couldn't make that happen due to the higher orders. Because normally, Nick Aldis, if you want a match for something, let's say hypothetically, hey, can I have a match to have like a number one contendership or the tag team titles? Sure, you're gonna have to go up against these group of people, and then you're gonna have to go up against this set tag team, just like how they're doing now, to determine the number one contender, and then you could earn that spot to be in that position. Usually, Nick Aldis can do things like that, but knowing the certain situation that they're in right now with Kevin Owens, he can't. So, then you had like Orton, just say, you know what, I guess I have to talk to the person who is, you know, higher than you to see if we can get things done. So that's why I said earlier I'm happy that they're taking their time with this. They have Randy focusing on KO, and then wherever that situation comes, he can focus on Cody when it counts, which I'm not entirely sure when they're going to do that, because at the same time, you know, since we have Rock back, and Rock said he's not going to be here until next year, I definitely expect him to be on the Netflix episode. But it's like the whatever Cody goes, that's in the Rock's hands. Like if he wants to involve himself in a program and stuff like that. It made it very apparent earlier this year. So I don't know when they're gonna pull that trigger with Randy Orton and stuff like that. But I am happy that they are, you know, trying to push for a match like that at Crown Jewel, which I definitely expect to happen. And I am just very curious to see like what sort of story that's going to lead to as we go into next week, and then the Friday before Crown Jewel, which they usually treat like a big thing before any pay-per-view when it comes to a Friday Night Smackdown. So I'm very curious to see what that leads to.
Yeah,
But
which I'm assuming that one's gonna be pre-taped, because I would believe they would be in Saudi Arabia that week.
And it's interesting now that we might end up getting Triple H involved in this entire thing.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that has me salivating, because it's like there's a bigger reason why like Nick Aldis can't make this match happen. So we'll have to hear.
Yeah,
which I'm assuming that one's gonna be pre-taped, because
I mean, I'm pretty good.
I would believe they would
that
be
kind
in
of discussion
Saudi Arabia that
when it
week.
comes
and it's
to
interesting now that we might end up
Orton
getting Triple H involved in this entire thing.
Kevin Owens. So we can move on to our mid-card stories now, if you would be so kind as to move us along here, because we have some triple threat tag team matches to determine a new number one contender for the tag team titles. And oh boy, we had some bangers, we had some fire heat going on tonight, with our first one with the Street Profits taking on Pretty Deadly and DIY. This match, I don't think, left fourth or fifth gear since it started. Like, it started fast and hot and very hard. Like, even going through like the picture in picture, like there was a point where Gargano and Dawkins were doing a bunch of double team moves on Pretty Deadly. Like, Pretty Deadly were basically just the punching bags.
Yeah, they're memes
all throughout this match, you know, which I mean they're good at, you know. And I mean, again, we could go blow for blow on all this, but like I think the main talking point with this match is the finish.
Yeah.
Because, and they harped on this a little bit on commentary as well, where it's like the rules of this triple threat match were, you know, one member of each team in the ring. And I don't know if you've noticed this either. Whenever WWE does like a triple threat tag team match, they always do a different rule set with it, where it's like either one time it's like all three guys or girls are in the ring, or another time it's just like two people in there and all that.
Yeah, I never understood that.
I didn't either.
I always thought if it's like a triple threat match, just like each member of the team in there, it doesn't make sense like tag them in or whatever. I never understood that.
Yeah, same here. So I'm glad they did it this way, because this is the way I prefer. But yeah, the finish to this match really got me, because like you had Pretty Deadly were the ones to eat the pin, but you had both what was it? It was Champa and Montez Ford, cover a member of Pretty Deadly, but only one of them were legal in the match. So both babyface teams thought they won, and the face Montez Ford makes when he realizes that they didn't win, like he's all celebrating, like yeah, and then it's just like, what? We didn't win? Excuse me? Like this was good. Like this was really good. This is how you do like a finish like this, where it's like you don't want both of your baby faces to truly lose, but one of them does because of a technicality. I don't know. I was freaking out with this one. Like this was just so well done and so well put together, and honestly could be leading towards a Street Profit heel turn. I
Maybe.
mean, again, it could be, but let me hear your thoughts about all this because, like, again, I know we could go blow for blow like this, but like,
Yeah.
but my biggest thing is just like the finish with this one.
I do want to go blow for
Yeah.
blow, just talk about the match itself, just dive and talk about what happened. So
Hmm.
pretty much we saw the match start where we had Montez Ford, we had Prince, we had Ciampa. They pretty much started the match when Ciampa was hitting a knee on Ford, sending him outside of the ring. We saw that Prince ended up slapping Ciampa. He ends up running out. Ciampa ends up chasing him in, only to be attacked by Wilson. Then we saw all six of the men brawl, leading to Pretty Deadly just double teaming Ciampa. We got a commercial break after that. Ford ended up landing a super kick on Pretty Deadly, ends up climbing the top rope, but Prince traps him. Then we saw Dawkins throw Wilson outside and helps Ford hit a Doomsday Blockbuster on him, which actually looked really nice.
Oh
And
yeah, it
then we
did.
saw Champa cover Wilson and Ford ended up covering Prince. And then, going back to what you said, we saw that double pinfall, which one of the things I will say that I do like about that is I do like how they acknowledged what was going on in the ring, where it
Hmm.
didn't bring us into any of those situations where it's like, okay, now we got to figure out who the winner is next. Because again, in the old regime, they would do some stupid bullshit like that. But I like
Yep.
how she was paying attention to who was actually in the match. So that's why she gave the win to Champa when it was said that, Wilson was the legal man in the match to be pinned, which we did see. It was showing us
Hmm.
proof when it came to the footage showing the end of the match. So that's my takeaway. I will say, like, when it comes to that, is I really appreciated the fact that they are aware of their surroundings, because
Yeah.
back in the old days, especially when it came into, like, video footage being shown, towards the end of the match, just seeing how things are being played out and everything. They never really took the time to really look back at the footage to really know what's going on, because back then they were trying
Hmm.
to insult your intelligence. They were trying to make you feel stupid
Thank
about
you for saying
how
that.
things were happening. And that's one of the things I liked about what happened at SummerSlam this year, where we had Damian Priest go up against Gunther, and then Damian Priest saw what Finn Balor did on the camera,
Hmm.
and then that's when you had that whole angle play out. He was getting frustrated with Finn Balor, and he went to go grab his neck and everything, and that ended up costing him the match. Like, I like how they're actually taking that into account, where they actually are aware of what's going on, instead of just being like, okay, this
Yeah.
happened, we can't really change it. I mean, whatever happened here, that's it. So it's like, I really did appreciate that moment. That was, I mean, I enjoyed the match itself. Don't get me wrong. I
Hmm.
thought it was a pretty good match, but that was my takeaway, because I like not being treated like an idiot when I'm watching television. Because
Yeah.
if I see Wilson getting pinned by Champa, I want Champa's arm to be raised instead of just giving it to the other team just because you
Hmm.
happen to look at them. So it was nice that she was able to point out who won that match.
Yeah. Again, just I like that because like you just I'm so glad because like I'm sitting here just thinking, man, I'm so glad my intelligence wasn't insulted. Man, I remember when Triple H was just like, yeah, our fans are a lot smarter than we think it's like, yes, we are smarter.
Yeah,
We do pay
even
attention.
even
So
saw that
thank
whole,
you for that.
and when we watched that Vince documentary, even saw that a whole
Hmm.
little clip play of Vince, where he's like, we're tired of insulting your intelligence about what's going on. Yet you continue to do the same exact thing. But
Exactly. Like,
but I'm glad that they're
oh
actually
my
taking
gosh.
it into account now with this new era of WWE, where when the
Hmm.
audience sees what happens, they acknowledge it as well. So
Yeah. And again, like kudos to commentary too. Like first of all, I know we didn't mention it, but like Michael Cole had to miss another
probably because of the UK tour, right?
event. I Maybe
Maybe, I'm not
I
sure.
guess he was doing that. Yeah, I'm not really sure. So we had Wade and Graves on commentary. So kudos to them because like again, they were able to like really hammer in the rules for all of this and kind of like get that idea into your head like especially Corey Graves, like Corey Graves on commentary. I mean, he's always been good, but like he's been becoming even greater just in the past like couple years or so. Again, probably because he doesn't have a 70-year-old man yelling into his ear, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
digress with that part. Like
We
again, like
escaped
they
those
plant
days.
the seeds. Oh my god, I'm so glad we're away from those days. Oh, man. But yeah, so like what I mean with that first match, we finally have like our first half of this number one contenders match being DIY. But who is DIY going to be facing? Well, they're going to be facing either Legado del Fantasma. That's an option. That's a great option.
Mhm.
They could face A Town Down Under again, which again that's also another option. That's a cool option.
But
But I think the best option is a brand new tag team known as the Motor City Machine Guns, finally making their WWE debut after days, months, possibly even years, maybe even decades. I don't know. You could throw that kind of number in there too. Like they finally make their way to WWE. Um, First of all, how are we feeling about I guess their first entrance into WWE, I guess, like, with their pop, because like,
talk about
I
their
thought they got a pretty
presentation.
good pop. Yeah, their presentation as well, like, they've already got a shirt out. I thought the pop they got was pretty good. I know I saw a couple people online being like, "Oh, they got nothing." Yeah, it's just like, well, they did get a pop. They got something, which is a lot better than you can say about some people who have been on the roster for so long and still not getting anything. Pure Fusion Collective. Anyways, um,
I don't even know what you said.
but e exactly, you don't even wanna
No, I
know.
don't care.
But, exactly. See, exactly. But, yeah, how'd you feel about just, like, their presentation coming in tonight?
So, I will say that the Motor City Machine Guns, they honestly they fit like a fucking glove in WWE. I will say that because
Mhm.
just their whole presentation alone, like one thing I will say is it's gonna take some time for the theme song to grow on me because it didn't really hit me right
Yeah.
away. I will say that. But I do like the overall presentation of their entrance, like when it first starts up and just that whole presentation alone when it comes to like the whole spotlight and the the visuals of like the whole like vignette that says their name and like all the lights going
Mhm.
everywhere. I do like that. I thought that was done very well. And I honestly thought that they did a pretty good job tonight. I was very proud of their presentation. They actually announced this earlier in I can't say earlier, probably like in the middle of the afternoon where they had Nick Aldis come across them. They signed their SmackDown contracts and he was, making a big deal about them, and even Triple H made a tweet saying how they're a pretty big deal when it comes to like the tag division, when it comes to the sort of thing they want to offer to the tag division, which is something that I am hoping they take into account because one of my biggest issues lately when it comes to the tag division is the fact that they're not really being presented that well on television or even PLEs
Yeah.
because the last time that we saw the tag titles on a PLE was WrestleMania when they got split apart. That was the last time we ever saw them defended on a PLE. And their current status
Mm.
right now, they're just props for the Bloodline and Judgment Day. And you
Yeah.
could easily take those things away and not really notice a difference. I mean, the Bloodline doesn't need it. Judgment Day definitely doesn't need it. I mean, Judgment Day right now is cold as all fuck. So it's
Yeah.
like they don't need those titles at all. I know why they have it because it's just a prop piece just to make them look cool or whatever. But realistically, they do not need it. But what I'm hoping with them coming into the fray is the fact that maybe they can help mold the tag division to be where it needs to be, which is something that is definitely needed because I know Triple H is a very big tag team wrestling guy. And I
Mhm.
know it's also nice to see the tag division getting them some love as well, instead of focusing on the main men's champion or the main women's champion or the Intercontinental
Yeah.
Championship. Like, besides the whole singles titles, I just want to get that focus again on the tag team division, because I love tag team wrestling. I love seeing all these different kinds of matches play out, because we have
Mhm.
a lot of good teams on there. We have DIY, we got the Street Profits, we got the Motor City Machine Guns. We have a lot of talented people there within that roster that could, really bring the tag division to new heights. I mean, we even saw on Monday Night Raw that the War Raiders are back. They're actually going by
Yeah.
their actual name. So it's like, I'm hoping that's Triple H showing us that, yeah, we have a game plan in mind. We're actually going to try to get things back on track again, so we can give you some good tag team wrestling throughout the week, which is something I'm hoping they take into account. And just to just to talk about this match itself, just to give like a play
Mhm.
by play of what happened. We ended up seeing the match begin with Garza and Waller attacking Chris Sabin, which is one of the members of Motor City Machine Guns. For people that aren't familiar with them, you don't know their names. But then we
Yeah.
end up seeing Chris counter with elbows and a cross body off the top rope. Then we saw Sabin hit Waller with a tornado DDT, sending both of them to the outside. Alex Shelley ends up getting plugged in. The Motor City Machine Guns deliver a double baseball slide to Waller and Garza, which looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then we saw Humberto and Theory enter the ring, but they were thrown out. The Motor City Machine Guns ended up double teaming Waller, and Shelley locked all, and then Shelley locks in an armbar, but Waller ended up countering, and then we ended up getting a commercial break. Waller ends up clotheslining Garza on the outside. Shelley kicks him and hits a double DDT on a town down under, which really looked really cool. We saw a brawl ensue, which is a typical thing. We even saw that in like the first match. And
Yeah.
Theory was hitting a drop kick, and Sabin ended up landing on the clothesline. And then we saw Motor City Machine Guns finish with a splash neck breaker combo, and Shelley ends up getting the pin for the win. Now we have DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns next week, which is pretty crazy to think about, because you would expect to see a match like that probably sometime down the line. Like, that's like a
Yeah.
PLE level match, considering the sort of
And we're
talent that
getting it on SmackDown.
yeah, considering the sort
This
of
is awesome.
talent that both of those guys that both of those groups bring. But it's just really nice how they were able to offer that good first impression to get people really
Mhm.
invested into them, because one of the things I did notice throughout the match itself is that you actually heard the crowd chanting, Motor City, Motor City. I was like, okay, that's
Mhm.
good. I mean, that's the sort of reaction you need to get. So it's cool that they have people that are familiar with them, and it's cool that people are getting into the groove with them when it comes to certain things that they do. It just clicks with them naturally, and they can follow through with it. So I really like that. And I'm really excited for that match that we're going to be getting next week between
Yeah.
Motor City Machine Guns and DIY. That should be a very good match. I'm hoping it takes time. I'm not
Mhm.
entirely sure when it's going to be placed on the show. I'm hoping it at least has like a good, I'll say at least 15 to 20 minutes or so when it comes to that match, not just
Yeah.
rush through it and get it done. Like, I'm hoping they take their time with that, because like I said, I'm hoping this is leading us in the right direction, where it's like, okay, we have the Motor City Machine Guns, um, which is, if I'm making a bold prediction right here, as much as I love DIY, I'm hoping that we get the Motor City Machine Guns against the Bloodline, and they could actually take those titles off of the Bloodline, and then they could
Mhm.
actually start molding the tag division where it needs to be. Because my biggest gripe when it comes to WWE, and that's just how I am. I just want to be honest when it comes to certain things. I don't want to be like certain people that try to sugarcoat stuff just because they just want to, so they don't come off as like an asshole or whatever. And it's not me saying this isn't coming off as an asshole, but I personally just want the Motor City Machine Guns to win that match against the Bloodline, only because I want those titles to feel important. I want those titles to feel defended,
Yeah.
because you got to give your other You got to give the boys something to fight over. So having the Motor City Machine Guns as the champion and having all these different kinds of tag teams go up against them and help building them would just be a nice thing to see from the tag division overall. And the Bloodline Story doesn't need it, and based on certain shenanigans that are playing out between both sides of the story when it comes to Roman and Solo, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Jimmy or Jay or whatever the case may be, once we get to that certain point, or the reason why they lose those titles to begin with. Because it's like, as much as you keep playing games, you're eventually going to get the people that you're messing around with are going to get their lick back, and they're eventually going to screw you over and make you feel the same amount of pain that they did before. So I'm just hoping they get the titles, they help molding the division and stuff like that, because they made a statement for a reason by showing them on Twitter. Because I know a lot of people are saying, oh, they could have showed them on SmackDown, be a big surprise. We already knew they were coming. It wouldn't really be that big of a surprise. I mean, if you paid attention to the vignette last week, it literally showed their name in the vignette. We know they were coming. But I like how they did it today, because that draws in views for people wanting to see them. And they're making him a big deal by showing that little clip on Twitter. So I'm hoping this is Triple H telling us, because we obviously know he does the shows, that his name is listed at the credits towards every ending of the show. So it's like, I'm hoping that's him telling us that, okay, we're going to use these group of guys to really kick things into gear of where we're supposed to be again, which is something that I would really appreciate.
Yeah, and you kind of saw that too with all the tag teams tonight.
Yeah.
Each and every single one of them they kind of opened up a little bit.
Yeah.
Everybody seemed to be on their A game. Even Pretty Deadly, who were basically the punching bags in their match. But this is one of those times where I would be very curious to see who the producers were for these two matches, because I know from what the rumors were before, obviously they made their SmackDown debut, it was said that they would be in NXT. So when you think of, Motor City Machine Guns, everything they've done for the business and all that, you think, okay, they're going to NXT. Part of that is probably going to be some coaching or probably some producing roles and all that. But see, now they're on the main roster. So I'm curious if they had some producing going into both of these, because again, all these teams were just on a different level. I mean, I just look at that first match. They were just on it. They were at 100 miles an hour at the get-go, and kind of the same with this match too. Especially the way Motor City Machine Guns were moving, and oh dude, especially Grayson Waller with some of his spinning strikes and all that. He was kind of stiff tonight, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And I mean, Austin Theory looked great. Yeah, I mean, everybody just really looked great tonight in their tag team matches. So I don't know if it's just the influence from Motor City Machine Guns being around, or
Out the way that
if
probably
they
should have
had
been done.
some say in some of the production with it. So I'd be really curious to see. We had some who did all of that. But yeah, again, like you said, we have DIY Motor City Machine Guns set for next week. I think it's going to be a great match. I think you think it's going to be a great match, and I'm just glad we're getting it on SmackDown. Make everything just feel bigger again, which has been the whole thing of 2024, just making the whole product feel bigger.
Yep.
But speaking of feeling bigger, Lash Legend finally had her singles debut here on SmackDown, and she had a huge challenge going ahead of her as well, having to deal with Piper Niven. Kind of a short match, but it really it did what it needed to do. It showcased an NXT star beating a main roster talent, showing off her strengths, her weaknesses too, but also kind of building up to hers and oh, what's her name? It's not Jakara Jackson, is it?
Yeah,
Is it?
she
Or am I
was.
mixing
Yeah, she
people
was
up?
out. She was out there with her.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Sorry, I'm not too familiar with some of
Oh,
the
it's fine.
NXT people. So so you have them, but like this is all leading up to their eventual rematch with Bianca and Jade because they were in the crowd as well watching this match going on. But like, to kind of go through the blow for blow with this, the match began with Piper Niven hitting a big shoulder tackle on Lash, but she kind of missed the splash and all that. And Lash again with a counter after counter after counter of, Niven trying to put the pressure on her and all that. And like after dodging a cannonball, she's able to lift Piper up and Piper kind of escapes. I don't know if Piper was supposed to escape here or not, because it did look like Lash Legend was going to hit a move here. Like,
Mm.
I just don't think she was able to hold up Piper that long. So, sorry about that. Things happen, whatever. Chelsea does try to get involved, but hard. Piper goes for another splash, but gets caught by Lash Legend, which that alone, I mean, that's some strength right there. And Lash hits her, what was it like this face first slam or whatever? Like goes for another
Almost kind of like
splash, but gets
spinning
caught
her.
onto the ground and all that. Like okay, okay. Lash Legend spun somebody the size of Piper Niven. Just let that sink in really quick. Like again, I feel bad for saying that because Piper Niven's a great person, all that, but it's like she is a big person. So like her getting thrown around like this was just crazy. And like you could hear the crowd just starting to get behind Lash Legend a little bit. And I don't know if you saw this either, but on Twitter, I saw like so many people in the business, like so many people from like backstage, like Mitchin, like other wrestlers and all that. Like they were giving Lash Legend some props online. Like it was almost everybody I was seeing after that match was tagging her and saying like, "Wow, what a great look! Wow, what a great showcase! Good job out there, Lash Legend!" Like that's something big. Like you've got a star right there. If you're having people like in the company and in the business freaking out about a match that they had. But yeah, Lash Legend picks up the win, and yeah, they give a little look to Jade and Bianca, and again, I think they're going to be the next challengers. They're going to have a rematch. Hopefully, they have some time. But yeah, let me hear your thoughts, Drop. I know I kind of went on everything and all that, but like, I want to hear your thoughts about how like because you're more of the NXT rep here,
Yeah.
so like, I want to know your thoughts about like how they portrayed Lash Legend here and like where things could be going if we are going to be going to maybe them beating Jade and Bianca. I really don't know, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like it's a
So
possibility.
yeah, so like I will say this, like Lash did look really good tonight when it came to her match with Piper Niven, when
Hmm.
it came to especially picking her up and delivering that body slam. That was a really nice spot. That's probably something a lot of people online took into account. And she did
Hmm.
something similar, I believe, last year when you
To
had
Otis, I
yeah, when
think.
you had the Alpha
Yeah.
Academy go on NXT, and she actually ended up delivering a body slam to Otis as well. So her presentation when it comes to her strength alone is like really nice to see, and I'm
Hmm.
glad that they're actually taking their time to actually, try to throw somebody out there and actually make them, you know, I guess have more have the crowd have more eyes on them, get familiar with them and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
I know it's not like 100% confirmed they're on the main roster that, and they'll probably tell us, straight off the bat, oh yeah, they're on SmackDown now, wherever. But they're obviously doing this whole cross brand thing because once we get deeper into once we start off 2025, we're gonna end up having that 3 hour SmackDown. And I remember stumbling across a report where they were saying they're gonna try to factor in some NXT talent in there to help fill in some time and stuff like that. And that
Hmm.
helps them out in the long run once they eventually get caught up, because then people would be familiar with them by seeing them on television every single week. So it's
Yeah.
like I said, I am very happy with the sort of presentation that they did with Lash Legend, but like if I'm being 100% honest, like I'm not like fully I'm not like fully into Lash and Jakara Jackson yet.
Mhm.
It's obviously going to take some time, just like how it does with a lot of people. Like, yes, I've seen them on NXT when I started watching NXT again around WrestleMania of last year, like when WrestleMania season was going on last year in 2023, where I was
Mhm.
watching probably around I would probably say around January of that year when we eventually got that match with Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker for the NXT title. Then Carmelo Hayes won. Just basically that beginning of January of last year, based on what I've seen to them, because they were on there way longer than that before I started watching. But
Mhm.
based on what I've seen from them, like I appreciate what they're trying to do. I appreciate the whole presentation. It's just obviously going to take me some time to like fully get into it, which is a common thing, like I
Yeah.
said, when it comes to anybody. You're not going to just be hooked with somebody straight off the bat. It's obviously going to take some time to really sink into that and actually just get a better grip on it. But
Yeah.
and just adding on to your whole entire comment when it comes to them going up against Jade and Bianca, um it could potentially lead to another match, but they do have to go through the Sky Pirates on NXT next week, because there's a
Right.
match with the Sky Pirates versus Latch Legend and Jakara Jackson. And
Mhm.
I don't know how I really feel about the Sky Pirates losing to them, only because they sort of cost them their opportunity on Monday. So
Yeah.
if you think about it from this perspective, it's like, okay, does it really make sense for them to cost their match on that Monday and then have them have a match on Tuesday on NXT next week and just have them win that match anyway and just get Jakara Jackson and
Mhm.
Lash against Jade Cargill and Bianca again? Not really. That's why there's this part of me where I could potentially see it become a triple threat, only so you could
Yeah.
have those three teams in the ring. But one thing I will say when it comes to the women's tag team picture is I'm hoping, again, like I said before, there's something that this is leading up to, because I don't want it being the same
Right.
thing where you throw all these different kinds of teams to Jade and Bianca and they end up winning against them, where it's like, okay, we got two teams after us now. They're gonna have a match in NXT. It's gonna turn into a triple threat. We're gonna go up against them, and then we're gonna win the match, and then move on to something else. Like, I'm hoping that there's some sort of thing that's starting to build later down the line, or possibly towards the end of that match potentially, where
Mhm.
we start getting into like something to really sink our teeth into, because my biggest issue is that there's not really any compelling stories when it comes to the women's tag team belts, because you can throw all these different kinds of teams to Jade and Bianca as much as you want. You could throw the Sky Pirates at them. You could throw Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend at them. You can throw the Pure Fusion Collective at them. You could pretty much throw anybody you want at them. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you gotta give us something to work with here. That's why it's really
Mhm.
hard to get super invested in these tag titles, because it's like you can't always put good matches on all the time and expect people to just suck it up. Like, you gotta give us
Yeah.
something to chew on, for example. It's almost like with a dog with a bone. The dog's gonna take some time to chew on that bone, and they're gonna,
Mhm.
try to take some time to savor it and stuff like that. They're not gonna just chew on the bone and walk away from it and just go lay back in their bed, because even with my dog, when my dog has his bone, he's chewing on that bone for a
Oh,
good
same
while.
here.
So it's like you got to give us something to work with here, because
Yeah.
I like when I come on here, I want to talk about how to improve the product, how to make the
Mhm.
product look better. And this is just me giving, my overall thoughts when it comes to how we can improve the product. You got to do something with Jada Bianca. either some tension
Yeah.
starts building with them, or you create some sort of compelling story with whatever tag team that you get them involved with. You got to give us either of the two. Either it's them or whoever they're working with, because
Yeah,
I
which I mean, I can commend them for trying,
yeah,
you know? Like I can at least do that, but kind of in the same boat. Like especially because we know that's gonna end up leading to Jade versus Bianca,
yeah.
but you're gonna have to start kind of planting some more seeds or
Definitely,
like
definitely in
showing just
November, because
something.
November is when we really start building into that stuff. Because that's something I noticed is like
Hmm.
around November, especially towards like Survivor Series and bleeding into December and obviously through January. Just basically that November period, like after Saudi, that's when you after Crown Jewel, that's when you start really building into WrestleMania season, because that's something
Yeah.
that I believe even Triple H brought up in the documentary. He's like, around this time, we knew what we wanted to do heading into WrestleMania. We knew what sort of
Hmm.
matches we wanted to have. We knew what sort of stories that we wanted to tell. So I'm hoping around this time, because it is almost the end of October, so I'm hoping sometime in November we start getting that angle building of Jade and Bianca. Because it
Yeah.
can't be like a walk in the park where you're like skipping through a field of flowers and you're going through every single tag team, and it's just simple. It's like, okay, we're just taking out the trash and coming back in. It's like
Yep.
you got to give us something to work with here. So
Yeah. Just
hopefully,
just a little bit more, you
yeah,
know?
like start it out with something and try building into it, because I love like long-term booking. I'm a big fan of it, and you
Mhm.
could do that with certain feuds, but not all of them, because I feel like certain
Yeah.
ones call for it, certain ones you don't always have to do it with. But just my overall thoughts, just like I said, just give us a little something. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens with that match with Sky Pirates and Shakara Jackson and Lash Legend next week. We'll see how that bleeds into whatever Jade and Bianca's doing, because I wouldn't be
Mhm.
surprised if they're ringside at that match or whatever. So
Same
we'll
here.
just see what happens next week. I'm hoping we can come back here next Friday and have more thoughts to say about this, because I definitely will bring up whatever happens on NXT in our show next week, because it technically
Mhm.
does fall into the whole story that's going on with the tag
Yeah.
titles anyway, especially when it comes to the people that are involved. So hopefully we get something thrown in there that's, like I said, something that we could actually talk about and speculate where it could go from point A to point B.
Exactly. So, yeah, hopefully we get some of that going into next week, but yeah, so one thing that we did have this week though, or at least we were
Yeah.
missing a little bit of,
Oh yeah.
so we're supposed to get another women's tag
Oh yeah,
team
that segment
match.
that we saw in the back.
Which one? The
The segment we saw before it bled into the match with Nia and Nick
uh
Aldis.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I put it on the bottom.
so oh yeah. Ah, there you are, you little sucker, you. So yeah, we were supposed to get Bayley and Naomi versus Nia and Tiffany Stratton,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, it's not Tiffy time this week. Instead, it's flu time. So I
Sicky.
want to start
Actually,
off first.
Sicky time would work.
Oh no, oh no, sicky time. How'd you feel
Sick.
about sicky time this week? That's what I would start with. Like as the resident Tiffany Stratton mega ultra fan
Yeah.
here, how'd you
Yeah.
feel about
With
her
that
having to
that funny
miss out
fan
this
edit we'll
week?
show a little bit later.
Oh, you guys are in for a treat with
I won't
that.
play it. I'll have to lower it down because I don't want us to get flagged on here. But
Oh yeah, true.
yeah, so we pretty much like saw because I was like very curious to see like what was gonna be happening with Tiffany and Nia this week, because
Hmm.
I am invested with like the sort of story that they're telling. I personally would have pulled the trigger at Bad Blood, because I feel like that was probably a good moment for Tiffany Stratton to cash
Hmm.
in her Money in the Bank contract, only because the sort of story they were telling bleeding into Bad Blood made sense for her to do it, especially how Nia was treating her that night. So I do feel like
Hmm.
they did miss the ball with that, and I wasn't really that big of a fan of that match to begin with. mainly because I mainly like the first and last match. Everything like
Yeah.
in the middle, like I said, you go watch our thoughts on that. But it's
Yeah.
like yeah, so we pretty much saw this whole segment. Like I said, I was very curious to see what was going on between Tiffany, Nia, Sector, so on. But we saw it segment cut to Nick Aldis and Nia Jax. And we see that Nia Jax is on the phone. She's talking with Tiffany Stratton. And she ends up mentioning to Nick Aldis that Tiffany Stratton has the flu. And like Watkins brought up, we had that whole tag match being brought up. That whole tag match between Bayley and Naomi versus Tiffany and Nia Jax. So in Nia Jax's eyes, okay, you know, my partner's sick. Got to cancel the match now.
I can't do it.
But Nick Aldis said to her, "Is like, you know what? The match is still on. You got to find another partner to really come and you know, come by. I guess stand by your side so you
stand
so you can go up against Bayley and Naomi." And you know, he's not wrong though, because even though if with like Tiffany not there, SmackDown does have, you know, a lot of ladies that they can work with, because they do have a deep roster when it comes to certain people that they should be put on television when it comes to how the overall presentation and how they're showcasing them and everything. And Nick Aldis ended up telling her to, you know, come across somebody else. And that's when we saw Candice LeRae came in, and she was saying
the
how
resident women's speed champion.
yeah,
by the way.
she's been making a pretty big deal about it, even more than Andrade being the speed champion. Like they're actually showing these little clips online of her and Indy Hartwell. So
I love those clips so
at least
much.
at least they're trying to sparkle some light into this. Do I care about the speed titles as a whole? No. But at least they're trying to do something with it, just for it to stand out. Which, if you can make a speed title, I mean, you obviously have a mid-card title for the ladies that probably popped in your head. So hopefully we get that soon. But one of the things I did notice about just adding on to that with Candice LeRae is I do like how they're actually giving it some light. They're actually acknowledging that she's the speed champion on television, because they don't really do anything like that with Andrade at all.
No,
like they don't talk about.
I mean, again, they just kind of mention it.
Yeah,
it's just like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
speed champion.
But it's like they mentioned it like a couple times with like Candice LeRae tonight, which is, you know, all good to her, because she is a very underrated talent. I understand why some people might not be into her because of her presentation on screen, which I can understand, because at the end of the day, that's creative's fault for presenting her the way that they are, because obviously people are going to be turned off because of how her presentation was before on television. So I can understand where people are coming from, where they're like, okay, you know, do we really need to see this or whatever? It's because that's how you presented her to the audience. So obviously they're going to feel that way whenever they come around, whenever she comes out. But I do like how they're actually utilizing her in a way where it's like, okay, you know, she just won this title. It's not just that thing that she does on the sideline. Like they're actually involving her in some programs, and she's actually being put into a program with the women's champion on SmackDown right now, which is a pretty big deal of her, because you don't really see Candice LeRae doing anything. She's usually behind the scenes. You usually just see her and Indy Hartwell doing stuff, or just making little remarks throughout the show or whatever, and it bleeds into another match like we're seeing next week with Bayley and Naomi, I would assume, against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, because of all those comments that they make all the time. Because I did see a tweet from Bayley, so that's probably going to be a match we see next week. But I do appreciate that they're trying to make her feel important. They're trying to do a little something with her, which is, again, something that's very nice to do, because one of the things that's very nice to do is to build stars. That's one of the things that you're meant to do, so you can rely on multiple people. So I do like how they're trying to do that with Candice LeRae, because, I mean, if you've seen pictures of her online, she's been in some pretty crazy matches before she's been into WWE. She's willing to take a bullet to do this and that. She's a very talented individual that definitely deserves some spotlight. So hopefully this works out for her in the long run, and this isn't just a one-time thing, and after it's over and done with, you know, we're just gonna move on and never look at it again. But
Mhm.
getting into like the whole match itself, um we pretty much started it off. I don't know if you had anything to say before I get into the match or
Um, Not really. I mean, yeah, I was just kind of gonna go ahead and get into the match itself
yeah.
with it. Um, I mean, yeah, kind of like what you were starting off with, match beginning with Nia giving, a lot of punches, slamming Bayley, and just like laying it into her as well, just
Yeah.
as she does,
Just
and all
building
that.
off the history they
Candace.
already had already.
Exactly, yeah. So, like, Candace tags in, and, like, immediately when you see these 2 teaming up, you think, "Oh, Candace is gonna eat the pin because, oh, she hasn't been built up. She's basically the jobber of the women's division, blah, blah, blah." It's like, "Well, hold on, people. Hold your horses until we get to the end of the match here." But, like, and that's kind of like what happens as we continue on when, like, Candace tags in, and Bayley basically hitting her with her forearm, snapmare. Naomi comes in, going for a cover, but Candice obviously returns with some counters and all that. Naomi rushes Candice, gets tripped by her, and this allows Nia to get back into the match. And Nia, running roughshod on everybody, just tossing Naomi, hitting spine busters and sentons on everybody, like being very stiff, but like in a controlled stiff, not like the old Nia Jax, why are you hurting this person kind of
My
stiff.
whole, yeah.
Yeah, oh, my whole actually, no, that was actually kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. That was a funny time.
Yeah.
But hey, Naomi's able to kick out, and after our commercial break, Bayley does a sunset flip to Candace into the turnbuckle like she does, but pin's broken up by Nia. Naomi kicks Nia, slamming her to the mat, and hits a good old suicide dive to her on the outside. And then Bayley, she tries her damnedest to attack Candace, but she's thrown into the ring where Indy Hartwell then gets involved. So we get a little bit
Yeah.
of heel action here
Which,
because
yeah.
don't forget, because don't forget, Indy and Candace are technically heels on the main roster
Yep.
here. So with Indy helping uh that team out, tossing Bayley back into the ring, Candice is able to hit a moonsault and get the pin. Candice LeRae gets a pin on TV.
Uh,
I don't think she's gotten that since she's been on
yeah.
Raw,
Not just to
but
pin on a particular person too. That's pretty big.
Bayley, like, she got a pin over Bayley. That's huge. That's big. And I mean, I'm assuming that is going to lead to a match between the
Yep.
two. But like,
Yeah, it did.
just that right there. I mean, like, this whole SmackDown, and I said this in our group chat too. This whole SmackDown was good, but Candice LeRae just getting a win over Bayley. Like, I love Bayley, don't get me wrong, but like Candice LeRae getting a win over her, it was just the cherry on top of this already awesome SmackDown that we got. Like, it, it just made me feel good. It made me feel really good just seeing Candice getting a big win like that.
Yeah, because it's just something you don't expect to her because just based on the
Yeah.
sort of presentation that Candice LeRae has been having on television, you know, it's been really hard for people um to really believe in her, to actually care about her when she's out there. So I'm hoping with whatever
Mhm.
plan that they're trying to do with Candice LeRae moving forward, I'm hoping it works out because, you know, she definitely deserves to be put in the spotlight. And if they ever do try to, you know, build her up even more, I mean, that's definitely somebody you can count on if a Rhea Ripley isn't there or
Mhm.
Bailey isn't there. You know, you get what I'm trying to say. If there isn't any big names there and
Yeah.
you're able to establish a talent that people can actually get behind and actually give a fuck about, I mean, at least you can do that with Candace. Hopefully, I mean that's my
Mhm.
whole thing because it's like normally I'll be like, it's whatever because we were just
Yeah.
grown to just see things like this play out. I mean, we've even spoke about it on Raw when they were on Raw, the kind of segments that we
Mhm.
got with them. Me and Watkins and Vash didn't really have much to say because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we don't really care because you're not giving
Yeah.
us a reason to care. But now you're actually trying to push Candice LeRae in a way where it's like, okay, now you basically you're using that win that she got with the speed title to actually make it mean something for her,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I said many times before that I didn't mind Io losing that match because Io is above that title. She does not need a speed title, especially with the kind of rumors I've been hearing online that she's supposed to be having a big 2025. She's personally my pick for the Royal Rumble next year, just saying.
That's not a bad shout. That's not a bad
Yeah.
shout right there.
Because I even saw something come out where like Rhea was like, I'm hoping this whole live thing's done before Mania because, I would love to face Bianca or Io at WrestleMania, which is, Io has good taste. I mean, Rhea has good taste there. But it's like, that's why I was happy that Candice won because, at least it does something for her. It propels her in some sort of way. And I like how they're not like showing the title on TV, but they're actually acknowledging what happened behind the scenes, and they're actually putting Candice LeRae in a spot that she was never really in before. So hopefully with that, you can, try to get people behind her and actually build her as a legitimate star because, just like her husband, she can do a lot of things in the ring if you really want her to. If you want to really, dive deep with how Candice LeRae was, like her overall presentation, look at the kind of program she had in NXT. Look at the kind of matches that she had of Io Sky. Look at the feud that she had of Rhea Ripley back in NXT. Like, she's definitely works better as a heel, so I'm happy she is a heel because she just comes off better that way. So, basically, in a nutshell, I'm just hoping that they do something with this because getting a win over Bayley, like if it was Naomi, I hate to say it, I love Naomi. It probably wouldn't have hit as hard if it wasn't Bayley because Bayley's one of your top stars. She's been there forever. Her and Mercedes, that takeover match in Brooklyn that they had, I believe it's their takeover match in Brooklyn, that they had many years ago. They pretty much brought women's division where it was. They were the two key players to bring the women's division to where it was. It's they put on a classic match. That's why a lot of people remember Bayley and Mercedes because of the kind of match that they had back then to really put the women's division on the spot. So getting a big win over Bayley, it's big. Do something with it.
Yeah.
Make it matter. Don't just use it as like a shock factor for that SmackDown and then just have her lose and just bring her back to where she was before. Do something with it. This is your opportunity to actually do something with her character. And I'm honestly surprised that we're spending a lot of time in this because if you said this like 3 to 4 months ago, we would be talking about something else, but you finally gave us something to sink our teeth into. Do something with it. Hit the nail with the hammer. Do something with it.
Yeah. Like just continue the forward momentum because this is all we ever ask for with something like the speed title. Like, it's cool. Like in an old regime, it just would have been the speed
do
title.
something with it.
Been
Hit
stuck
the nail
on
with the hammer.
Twitter
Do something
and
with it.
all that stuff. But like, no, like you're actually continue doing something with it now. So good on you. Thank you. That's all we ask for. And apologies for my camera right now, everybody. It's not wanting to do what it's
on
doing,
OBS.
but...
It actually looks great.
Oh, okay. All right, then it must be just a StreamYard thing.
Yeah, it definitely is a StreamYard thing because I've noticed lately people using StreamYard. It's StreamYard itself that's like fucking with everything. It's not anything else.
Oh, goody.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for that, StreamYard. But I think we've overstayed our welcome with the old Candice LeRae stuff, and we'll talk more about it when we get more in depth with it. So let's kind of finish off our conversations by dealing with Andrade and Carmelo really quick. So like, this is a story basically in two short parts. Where part one, Byron Saxton is in the back. I guess he's trying to do a quick interview with Carmelo and Andrade, but I mean, these two just hate each other. They say words to each other. They start having a fight. That segment basically just leads to that, and it bleeds into a follow-up segment where Byron Saxon's backstage with Nick Aldis, and he's saying that next week Carmelo Hayes against Andrade is, this isn't just going to be number 7. This isn't just going to be another match. We need a little bit more in this, and what better more than to add in the guy that kind of this is also kind of involving as well,
Yeah.
LA Knight, who's going to be the special
Yeah.
guest referee.
He was on television for
for
people that were
this match.
complaining like dumbasses.
Oh my gosh, he was on television. He's finally on television. Yeah, exactly. People, just shut up. Just calm down. So yeah, we get another little wrinkle here in this series that we're doing with Andrade and Carmelo. Um, I'm fine with this. I'm
Yeah.
cool with this because, like, again, it's gonna lead, I think, to that triple threat
That's what I'm
match for
thinking.
the US title.
Because we've already
Yeah.
seen him have one-on-one matches with LA Knight, so there's no way we're gonna get another Carmelo versus LA Knight match or Andrade versus LA Knight match. It's probably going to lead into a triple threat match, which is why LA Knight is evolved to begin with. It's supposed to lead in that direction, so we get that triple threat for the title.
Yeah. And man, I love this line LA Knight just ends off with, but like just saying that, you're set up for a factory reset. Again, just one of those fun lines that LA Knight says. And yeah, again, I think this is gonna, like we just said, lead to that triple threat match. Possibly Carmelo going over in that, or
Maybe.
like it's something, because like I know you've stated too, and I'm kind of in the same boat as well, where it's like I could see Carmelo being the one to take the title from LA Knight.
Yeah.
It's just how do we
Yeah.
get
And I don't
there?
know if they're gonna do it now though. That's the thing. Because it's like
Mhm.
my overall prediction until something else comes up, I do predict Carmelo Hayes to take the title off of LA Knight. I just don't know if
Yeah.
they're gonna do it in this triple threat match, which I feel like they're building into. I mean, it makes the most sense. I don't know if they're gonna take I don't know if they're gonna take the title off of LA Knight just like that, because this has been
Right.
something that we've been wanting forever for LA Knight to actually have a title on the main
Yeah.
roster and actually have some time with it, because he got it at SummerSlam. So I don't know if they're really gonna blow it away and just have him have like a 2-month title reign and just give it to
Yeah.
Carmelo Hayes off the bat. Like, I feel like when it really comes down to it, what I would personally like to see is just have a match with him and LA Knight, and then have Carmelo Hayes win there if Andrade involved. Like, that's how I
Yeah.
personally would like to see it. So I feel like maybe getting him involved in a triple threat match, maybe that saves him some time to do that match down the road or whatever. But
Mhm.
I do expect LA Knight to retain. I don't think he's gonna lose the title.
Yeah, especially if we're doing like a triple threat like that. Like
Yeah.
I would much rather LA Knight lose it in a singles match.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, they could always lead into like a, oh well, Carmelo
I
pinned
do expect
Andrade,
LA Knight to
derp derp
retain. I don't
derp
think
derp.
he's
Like
gonna
they could
lose the
always do that
title.
story, but yeah,
That
especially
also
if we're
kinda
doing like
gets
a triple
played out
threat like
eventually.
that.
Yeah.
I would
After a while,
even going through like the
so there's another question I wanted to ask too involving this, but I can't remember. So we'll just kind of move on, I guess, from that, because yeah, I just don't remember what I was gonna ask with it. But like, I mean, that was basically SmackDown. I mean, I guess overall thought really quick with SmackDown. I mean, dare I say, go out on this limb. This might have been one of the strongest SmackDowns we had this whole year.
Yeah.
Maybe best. I don't know. Like, especially with Raw this past week. Like, Raw was a lot better this week when it came to like their 2 hour presentation. But like with SmackDown this week, they hit just like this perfect balance of great action, of great promo work. Pacing felt fine. Like nobody felt like they not only outstayed their welcome or that they weren't out there long enough. Like everyone was out there, I feel like, for the right amount of time. And a lot of stories progress. I mean, again, like we're 2 hours and 16 minutes into this
Yeah.
podcast episode, and like we don't normally go this long either, so like there were things to talk about,
Yeah.
and the fact that a lot of those things were positive things too. Like, yeah, there were some gripes here and there, but like there's a lot of good and a lot of stuff to just kind of dive into. And like we did we just scratched the surface on some of this stuff, like especially the stuff with Randy Orton, for example, him and Kevin Owens, the stuff with the bloodline, the stuff even with the tag teams and all that. Like there's a lot of stuff to dive into here. And I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of video essays in the next week or so, a lot of other podcasts talking about all this stuff. But like, man, I was really impressed with tonight's episode of SmackDown. Again, I think it was a very strong episode, and I'm looking forward to more like this. But drop, what do you have to say about SmackDown overall
So
tonight?
so pretty much giving my yeah, I fucked with the stream a little bit. But pretty much just
So,
giving my overall thoughts on the show. Probably the main thing I can really say, besides just giving our thoughts on the matches and stuff like that and certain segments that happened, because we already talked about that. I was just really happy that it was very story driven when it came
mhm,
to certain stories that definitely needed attention. When it came to the bloodline, that's something I really appreciated, because we did spend quite some time on that for a reason, because there was a lot thrown in there with that story. I was very happy with that. Like I said before, not the biggest fan of the ending. Hopefully they can get a little
yeah,
bit better with that. But I did appreciate what they were doing with the story itself. Like if you take away the ending and everything, pretty much everything we saw in the beginning, did the whole segment with Roman and Solo in the ring. Um, I really like that, even though it was kind of similar to things we've heard already. I guess the the beginning of the part is what really hooked me. Just wherever Jay was involved, because that's the main thing that a lot of us are interested in. What is Jay gonna do? That's why we tune in to watch the
mhm,
show. And also with Motor City Machine Guns, just to give a shout out to them. I'm glad they had a good presentation. Hopefully they can help mold the tag division to where it needs to be, because that's something that definitely needed. And I something else that I forgot I was gonna say too. I don't want to keep thinking about it, but just happy with what I said. I felt like it definitely delivered when it came to things I was personally looking forward to heading on into the show, and
mhm,
hopefully that bleeds into next SmackDown and we get a good result out of that. Also, hopefully, like I mentioned earlier with the whole Candice LeRae thing, you got me interested. So
yeah,
hopefully you do something with it. I mean, the ball's in your hands. Hopefully, you hit the ball on the basketball hoop, you get your shot. Hopefully, it works out.
yep. And I hope so too. I really hope it works out. But hey, everybody, that's basically been our show. That's been 2 hours and almost 20 minutes of us talking about SmackDown. Man, we talked about SmackDown longer than SmackDown actually was on the air.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's kind of funny how that
And
happens. But
again, guys,
hey,
we do want to apologize for the technical
oh
difficulties
yeah,
earlier, because I know we were supposed to start at 10:30, then we prolonged it, but now that we
yeah.
finally figured everything out, it's everything's all set.
Oh yeah, it should be smooth sailing from here on out.
Oh
We should
yeah.
be fine, starting on time, and if not, just a little bit afterwards. So we should be all good with that. But hey, you know what else is all good? Finding all the fun things down in the description below, because down in the description below you can find all the links to our social networks. That's like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're gonna start posting some short form stuff
Yep.
here eventually in the future. We got some plans that we're gonna roll out here soon. Be sure to check out all the stuff from Anima We Studio as well. We do have a new channel going up for that, where you're gonna see like all of our other shows, including the Anime Lately podcast, the relaunch of Shonen Ronin, a new show called Off the Binge. Like, be sure to check all that stuff out for the new channel regarding Anima We Studio, and check out the Vault channel for all of our past stuff as well, so you can catch up on what the team's up to and all that. But again, all that stuff is in the description, including things that me and Drop do as well. You could see Drop's daily videos during the week, Monday to Friday. You can see my videos weekly coming out. I'm changing my schedule to Thursdays now, so Make sure you check out any of my weekly videos going up on Thursdays. And yeah, just keep an eye out for whatever we have to do and whatever's coming out and coming your way. So, going to take some time now to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to the Weebs of the Ring podcast. If you enjoyed what we had to say, why not do exactly what I just flippin' told you to do? We are known as Weebs of the Ring on all of our social media platforms. And also be sure to use the hashtag Weebs of the Ring before, during, or after a wrestling show. Because, hey, we love to interact with you and we love to hear feedback from you. So that way we can make our show even greater than it already is. Weebs of the Ring is presented by Animal We Studio. Thanks to our production team of Vash, Watkins, Drop This Box, and Rome for the awesome logo that you provided for us. Thank you for joining us. And remember, no stunt grannies were harmed in the recording of this podcast. Have a good night, everybody.
What's up, guys? Hopefully I set this up.